monster inside of me. You better watch out if your enemy's a road ahead of full prophecy to be the greatest beast the world has ever seen. I feed him every day like the bones clean. I feed him all the hate and he grows me. And he gets claws real big, gets off quick. And if you cross him, you might drop dead. Metaphorically, of course, settling the score, never getting bored. That's the blood and gold. Always wanting more, freedom from the source. They don't really listen until they feel it for the party. And if you start shit, you'll be heartless in the darkness. Torn apart quick, you left scars ripped. You'll be chewed up and discarded.
And this world ain't right, won't accept it. Negative energy, I expect it. Once it's in your mind, it's infectious. So fight for your life and reject it. You better give me space, I'm protective. My adrenaline spikes when I'm threatened. And if you stay in my way, I'm aggressive. Cause when there's no exit, I'll kill when I'm desperate. When there's no exit, I'll kill when I'm desperate. And this world ain't right, won't accept it. Negative energy, I expect it. Once it's in your mind, it's infectious. So fight for your life and reject it. You better give me space, I'm protective. My adrenaline spikes when I'm threatened. And if you stay in my way, I'm aggressive. Cause when there's no exit, I'll kill when I'm desperate. When there's no exit, I'll kill when I'm desperate. dreams. I push a mind to a limit where it needs to feed. I work blind, got vision I don't need to see. I'm picking mind over matter, I believe in me. I need to find more hours in the day to breathe. Need to find more power in the way I be. And when my mind turns sour with the painful let it be. I can control anything if I can just think carefully. I control my destiny. Deep up in my mind I manifest it. Every morning I wake up obsessed, and everything I do the best. And deep within my mind, you know I'll always manifest it.
Hello and welcome to my Mind Over Your Matter. My name is Rick, and let's get this show started. How you guys doing today? It's the beginning of the week. Pretty busy for me today. I saw the chiropractor today, and he overworked me, and I'm hurting. my shoulders and my back is really like tonight. But other than that, we're still alive and we're still kicking. Let's say what's up, LB, Chloe. What's up, Chloe? How you doing? I hope you're doing good. Freaky awesome opening. Thank you, Chloe. Kevin, Herthorn, how you doing? First time seeing you here from Lakeland, Florida. Nice. I have family down in Florida. I have family in Orlando area and down in South Florida in Broward and Miami-Dade County. But Lakeland, pretty close to Tampa. Pretty cool area. My dad was going to move there once upon a time. Long story short, like I went up with him to Lakeland, Florida, because he was looking for a home there, and he never got to move there. I don't believe. I haven't spoken to him in a while, so he might be in Lakeland. Who knows? But thank you for coming through. I appreciate it. And taking off dashing tonight. Okay, that's nice. I at least get a little break tonight. That's great. So let's just jump right to it. We got a full lineup here tonight for us to watch. I hope and pray that it's okay for us to watch all this, because it's a lot to watch. I'm trying to get it done in 3 hours. We'll see. Without further ado, first one comes with a warning, graphic content. So let's see what's up. Here we go. Let's readjust the cameras here. And let's go ahead and start this.
Tensions surrounding Iran are drawing dangerously close to a breaking point, with President Trump threatening military action against the regime that has mercilessly slaughtered hundreds of its own people in a ruthless crackdown on protests. The unfolding crisis has entered the country into a new volatile phase, leading to speculation about how much longer the current regime will last. Here's everything you need to know about the latest in Iran. In the past 2 weeks, Iran has experienced the largest anti-government demonstrations in years, with thousands taking to the streets, turning their ire against the ruthless regime that has held power since the 1979 Islamic Revolution. At least 496 protesters have been killed in the unrest that has engulfed the oppressive theocracy, and more than 10,600 people have been arrested, according to alarming estimates released by US-based human rights activists in Iran. HRANA's latest death count more than triples its previous figures, provided just hours earlier on January 11th, in which the NGO said 162 had died. The Post is unable to independently verify the figures.
Another one bites the dust.
Disturbing footage has also emerged of grief-stricken families in Iran searching through rows of piling dead bodies amid the uprising, in what human rights groups have warned is a state-sponsored massacre in progress. As the government's response grows more and more severe, so too have demonstrations, which have now hit every province of the Islamic Republic. In one viral clip shared on January 9th out of the country's capital of Tehran, a mosque can be seen burning, surrounded by thousands of chanting protesters. Footage posted on January 11th by Iran State media IIB on Telegram
Of
claims to
course.
show the charred remains of a market in the city of Rasht, while referring to the protesters as terrorists.
Chloe.
In response to Iran's merciless
can see it for you.
crackdown, President Trump revealed
look
on
at that
January
big
11th
thing,
that the
another
U.S.
big
military is considering strong options
motherfucker.
ahead of potential negotiations.
There seem to be some people killed that aren't supposed to be killed. These are violent.
He looked like a good
If you
young
call them
gentleman.
leaders, I don't know if they're
from
leaders or
Lakeland,
just
Florida.
they rule
I
through
like Lakeland.
violence. But we're looking at it very seriously. The military is looking at it, and we're looking at some very strong options. We'll make a determination.
That same day, Iran warned that U.S. troops in Israel would be, quote, legitimate targets of attack if the U.S. strikes the Islamic Republic. In the event of an attack on Iran, both the occupied territory and all American military centers, bases, and ships in the region will be our legitimate targets, a parliamentary member said in a live TV broadcast. The regime's brutal response to mass protests has also included a near total internet blackout, with the country's connectivity to the outside world having plummeted to roughly 1% of normal levels, according to NetBlocks. President Trump has revealed he plans to speak with billionaire Elon Musk about restoring the internet using his SpaceX company through its satellite internet service, Starlink.
He could
get the internet going, if that's possible. Are you talking to Musk? We may speak to Elon. Because as you know, he's very good at that kind of thing. He's got a very good company. So we may speak to Elon Musk. And in fact, I'm going to call him.
It's such a good thing that they're back in good terms.
As the state of Iran hangs in the balance, its supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei's days may be limited. As ruler of the repressive Islamic regime, experts told the Post on January 10th. I suspect the supreme leader's got about a week, 2 weeks max, to get this under control. Ruel Marc-Garect, a former CIA officer on the Iran desk, said. Other experts told the Post Khamenei could experience a similar operation to what the United States conducted in Venezuela, saying there were rumors that some regime insiders are trying to contact the Americans and are hoping to do what Delcy Rodriguez did to Maduro. While there are not yet signs of security forces or generals defecting, Andrew Apostolou of the British Israeli Communications and Research Center told the Post that could change. And that, quote, things move very, very quickly when people feel their survival is at stake.
I'm looking at the video. Chloe, that is so funny. Let me bring it back to me because I love laughing. It's infectious. Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, click on that link and just have a good laugh. I like it. It's pretty good. You know, that's not easy to do. You know, you have to really work. And that's so cool. That's so cool. I like how you moved the piano and the chair out the way. That is so awesome. Freddie Mercury. Oh, such a great part of Queen. Oh boy. All right, let's keep it moving because we've got a lot to watch. Because it's been wild lately, so let's get caught up on the wildness. This happened yesterday.
Country, including here in
Let it set.
Here in New York City, CB Cotton live from Foley Square, that's in Lower Manhattan. Hi, CB.
Dana, good morning. Over the weekend, protesters flooded this area in front of New York's ICE field office and the streets of Manhattan, all in protest of immigration enforcement and the Trump administration. Sunday's demonstration was one of the largest yet in New York City since anti-ICE protests first began last
stupid.
And in me at 1.5 people were marching and some people carried signs with anti-ICE messages.
Murder? That's not murder.
Vehicles can be dangerous, but a vehicle
I
that
understand.
is just
Whoa.
starting to move, you have plenty.
You're not supposed to be out
move
there.
away and be safe.
You're not supposed to be interfering.
In Portland, Oregon, Los Angeles, and Austin, Texas, there were clashes between officers and protesters, and officers in riot gear had to take away several people. I spoke to one Canadian tourist who wonders how the anti-ICE movement will unfold on American streets.
Do these people have jobs? And if they don't have jobs, are they just going out and just doing this because they don't have jobs? Or if they have jobs, are they taking time off work?
They don't have jobs. I don't believe.
And we're monitoring for more anti-ICE protest to possibly pop up today. Dana, back over to you.
All right, CB, we'll keep an eye on it. Thank you.
So I want to bring in DHS Senior Advisor Ron Vitiello. Ron, thanks for coming on, and good morning to you, and thank you for your time. The mayor of Minneapolis yesterday said the government's story,
Yeah, it's a good video. I saw it.
Happening there
It's so
was a
funny.
false narrative. You're calling in hundreds of more agents. Why do you need them?
Well, he's been irresponsible with his comments from the minute that this thing became public. It starts with a core belief that people in the country that are here illegally and have committed other crimes don't deserve to be arrested and removed from the United States. So he has it absolutely wrong, and he's encouraging this lawless behavior. There are no assistance from the state and locals in Minnesota, which makes it much more difficult for the men and women of the front line that are out there. And so I would ask him to reflect on what's happened so far, what they did to precipitate what happened, and take another look here. There is an opportunity for them to cooperate with the federal government to enforce federal law. I don't think they will take that. So the additional resources will allow the men and women on the front line to do their job more safely with the authorities that they have.
Ron, yesterday, Tom Homan was asked about the officer who did the shooting, about what happened to him 6 months ago when he was dragged by a car.
Those are voters. Those are Democratic voters. That's why the Democrats are fighting so hard to keep him here, because they need him for the midterms.
May have impacted Officer Ross's judgment. Is that
That's the true reason.
I mean, he was under attack once with a vehicle, so certainly. But the environment right now with the threats against ICE officers have been shot at. They've been doxxed. They've been, again, assaults up over 1,300%. Threats alone of 8,000%.
Have you all had to, or will you continue in the future to adjust training for these ICE officers to deal with the fact that not only are they to try to get the criminal illegal immigrants out, but they're also dealing with protesters like those piercing whistles? For me, my very sensitive ears would be torture. So I imagine that they're just under a lot of pressure from a lot of different angles.
They should arrest
on things that they
everybody
might
with
not have had to be
whistles.
trained on before.
That's right. They'll upgrade their tactics. They'll learn from the lessons that we have.
Scramble
so far.
water.
They'll continue to improve, but they'll
You spray the
continue
people
also
with
to
water
deploy
and they'll
try to
scramble like
accomplish,
roaches.
the role that they have, which is to protect all of us. And the state and locals could engage here. They could allow people to protest. Protesting is fine. We all believe wholeheartedly in the First Amendment.
You get sprayed with
people have a
water,
right
you
to
don't leave,
protest their
you
government,
risk
but getting in the way of officers, blocking
frostbite.
traffic for them not allowing them to do their job or swarming
Or
them
hypothermia?
when they're out making
Or
arrests.
based on your decision,
that's
whether
not
you stay or
protest.
go, because if you stay,
impeding federal officers
you're gonna
in the
end up in the
performance of their
hospital.
duties, and that's why the extra
So,
support is
I would spray all
necessary.
these people with
There's
water.
a huge investigative effort going on.
What are they
to
gonna say?
uncover
Oh,
the
you're using
fraud
the
and those
water as a
responsible
weapon.
in Minneapolis and
Well,
Minnesota.
it's better than getting shot.
Going to yield results as well, because they're going
Here's
to
some
find out
water.
these networks of
Spray
people who
water
are
all over
lied to
them.
steal from America's safety net. And in the meanwhile, they'll be finding the criminals and arresting them and putting them on a path for removal in the city.
I'm sure you're aware that perception has a lot to do with what's happening and how people are reacting. And it's quite emotional. I mean, last week, I think, was something else for America. No matter what side of the story you're on here, in the end, that was a tragedy. Here is a Democratic congressman out of Massachusetts talking about ICE and fear. Watch here.
No law enforcement officer should be accosted or harassed or assaulted, and there should be penalties of law for so doing. And no U.S. citizen should be afraid of their own government, and that is what ICE has created. They have stopped being an arm of the law, and they have started being an instrument of fear.
Okay, we missed the first part of that, but the end is important. An instrument of fear. Instrument of fear. I know you've heard that. How do you respond to that?
Well, I don't believe that's the case. If you're here legally in the United States, if you're a U.S. citizen and you stay out of the way of lawful law enforcement operations, you won't have a problem. He's proving the point that they don't want anyone in the country that's here illegally to be arrested under any circumstance. We can all feel sorry for what happened to this lady and others, but the work will continue, and it's necessary after the chaos and invasion that we had in the 4 years under Joe Biden.
Ron Vitiello, we appreciate you joining us on a Monday morning. Thank you.
I'm Steve
Definitely
Doocy.
was a nightmare under Joe
And I'm Ainsley
Biden.
Earhart. And click here to.
I feel like America lost a lot of brain cells under Joe Biden. All right, let's see what happened here. This is the U-Haul truck running into a crowd of people. So, warning, some viewers may find disturbing. So, all right, here we go. Let's put on the volume here. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. What's going? What the hell? Oh my god. Oh, they're ripping out signs that were stapled to the U-Haul. Oh, wow. Wow, they really stapled that to the vehicle. Look at that. This old man's determined. Look at him. He's like, fuck this. Oh, he's kicking the U-Haul. He kicked the U-Haul. They're kicking the U-Haul. Look at it. Look, what the hell? Yo. Oh, look, they broke the side window. The passenger side. There's someone climbing the top of the U-Haul. There's someone in the vehicle. Pro-Iranian government, I'm assuming. Oh shit! For a second, I thought Stone Cold Steve Austin was going to jump out of there. I heard that glass shatter. I was like, oh shit, Stone Cold's going to come out and stun all these people. They're trying to get this guy out of the vehicle. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That is crazy. Oh, look at this. Oh, he's going to run him over. I mean, holy smoke. Well, look at this. After the guy. What is going on? Can we deport all these people? I mean, they're all Iranian, right? So, we deport it. What the hell? No, here comes the police. Hey, God, the police. What's going on here? Yo, they really want to get him. Whoa, you see the Chloe? Only in America. And they're Iranian. Oh boy. Wow. Why would they put the handcuffs behind him while they're walking him through the danger? Ain't that stupid? I would put the handcuffs in the front of him so he could guard his face and guard his head. That's wild. I got another angle of this. So let's go right to it. Warning, distressing content for sure. Scary content. Another angle. We got another angle. Yeah, they busted the windows. Yeah, they had signs. It looked like there was like pro-Iranian government propaganda on the U-Haul. So that's why the crowd went nuts on him. But I'm just saying, there's a lot of people here that's not from the country. Can we an ice baby here? I mean, I understand they're Iranian and we're trying to help them, but I mean, I'm trying to help America, and there's a lot of people here that could be possibly illegal and within this community also. Listen, if you're not American, you got issues. And it's wild because they're speaking their language, and I don't know what the hell they're saying. Oh, look, the U-Haul, look. Oh, he's trying to get the fuck. Oh, there's somebody on the top of the U-Haul. He's holding on. Why would people be in the fucking middle of the road? Yo, how about if he had a huge bomb in the back of the U-Haul? Look. Oh, but did he run anybody over? Why would they run towards danger? It makes no sense. How about if he had a huge bomb in the back of that U-Haul and he had maybe a device around his chest or something? He could have blown up all these people. Yeah, you see, it has propaganda on the side of the U-Haul. It looks like it was intentional. Yeah. They open his door and they kick him out. Yeah. I don't. It looks like the vehicle had Iranian government propaganda, and this demonstration is for freedom for Iran against the Ayatollah. And I guess the guy was like fearing for his life because they broke the side window. They pretty much took out the rear mirror. So he's in a vehicle that has pro propaganda on the side of the vehicle for the Iranian government. So it just stirred up the crowd to a point that he was like, he felt his life was in danger, and he took I wouldn't go that route, but he took that route, and you could see he wasn't intentionally trying to hurt anybody because he was going forward and jerking the vehicle, like trying to like get people away from it. And then when he saw the opportunity, he pretty much hit the gas on it. And people, of course, saw that and they're just all freaking out and screaming. But you know, why are these people protesting in America? Why can't we get these people and send them to Iran and then they could go fight for their freedom over there in Iran? Why are they doing it here in America? It's just, to me, you know, two wrongs don't make a right. That's what I was taught. Two wrongs don't make a right. All right, so let's go to another segment here. Fox News.
Anti-ICE protests erupting in Minneapolis across the nation after the shooting of a Minnesota woman. As DHS says, new video of the moments beforehand proves Renee Good was, quote, stalking and impeding a law enforcement operation all morning long. You can hear what happens to her honking the horn.
The hell? Oh, that's that crazy bitch. Oh, that's the one that got shot up. Okay.
Dustin Greggy is a town hall columnist based in Minnesota, and he joins us now. Dustin, great to see you this morning. Thanks for joining us. So you've been out in Minnesota for some time now, and you covered the protests 4 years ago after the George Floyd incident.
That fake protest shit.
Can you give us some sort of sense of comparisons between the protests we're seeing now and the protests you saw back then?
Yeah, no, completely. And what it is right now is just simply put, there's just not simply the same energy or the numbers that there was 4 or 5 years ago at this point. Back then, we were seeing crowd sizes 7 times the size of what we are now. There was a lot more energy and ultimately a lot more flames in the summer love. Right now, the winter love isn't quite kicking off to what it used to be. And simply put, it's because of videos like this that have recently come out where we're seeing 3.5-minute narrative busters where DHS and President Trump ended up being correct from day one that this woman was impeding on law enforcement. She knew exactly what she was doing. She wasn't simply a mom dropping off her kids or in the wrong place at the wrong time. She had been following them all day at this point and ultimately honking her horn, smiling and dancing to the beat of it. And ultimately, how do we get here? It's because of politicians like Tim Walz, who came out here, labeled these ICE agents as Gestapo, and Peggy Flanagan, our lieutenant governor, who told these activists to, quote unquote, put their bodies on the line, and unfortunately ended up costing a woman's life at the end of the day, unfortunately.
Yeah, speaking of politicians, we also have seen Ilhan Omar and Congresswoman Angie Craig confronting agents at an ICE facility yesterday. I want to play a quick clip from that.
This is just one more example of this administration and Kristi Noem violating the law. This administration continues to use Minnesota.
Yeah, I added it in the back.
And earlier this week, it got a woman killed.
When people are disappearing in the darkness, American democracy dies.
I found it the other day at Walmart.
Who have
they had one only. I was like, I'm taking it.
Undocumented. They are disappearing.
So cute
citizens.
Okay, DHS issued a response to that, saying the members of Congress were notified their visit was improper and out of compliance with existing court orders and policies, which mandate that members of Congress must notify ICE at least 7 days in advance of congressional visits because they were out of compliance
back
with this mandate. Representatives Omar and their colleagues were denied entry to the facility.
I'm going to possibly part ways.
It's really interesting, Dustin, that if you listen to them, 2 weeks ago, all of these Democrat politicians were embroiled in one of the biggest financial scandals that we've ever seen in this country. They seem to be so relieved to be running off to the next controversy to get away from that burgeoning scandal.
No question. And it's just, you just got to laugh as if this country didn't vote for mass deportations. We saw that in the election results. And even here in Minnesota, we saw good gains here that cycle. But yeah, ultimately at the end of the day, they're trying to run away from their failures. And that's just simply put what it is at the end of the day. Over the last 2 months, Democrats have been on complete defense, trying to run away from these failures to the point Tim Walz dropped out of the governor's race. That's how toxic this issue has been for the Democrats. Now we're seeing 90-10 splits. And although this is only like a 60-40 issue right now with immigration in Minnesota, but it is in favor of them. So they are trying to push this as a wedge issue and continue to push that rhetoric of, hey, these ICE agents, they're Gestapo. And you have to put your bodies on the line. And yeah, you're disappearing your neighbors. And yeah, fortunately, at the end of the day, this is the end result.
Running from their failures, you're putting it kindly. I suspect it's failures and so much worse than that. Dustin, Greggy, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Great to talk to you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here.
It's crazy how the Democrats don't have their minds together. They're all over the place and they're making the really horrible decisions. It's like the most simple decision to make, which is common sense. They go against it. It's forbidden to even talk about it. And it's just weird. Weird. Yeah. Very weird. And is it going to get any better? No, it isn't. It's not gonna get better. It's only it's a slippery slope, and put your hands up because it's a ride for sure. And I'm hopeful for 26. I don't expect it to be any good. It's going to be worse than 25. And I just see really, really bad things happening to innocent people. And that's the sad part, because the innocent die young. And it's for what, That's why I say choose your battles wisely. Just, you can't fight every battle and think you're going to win every battle, especially when you're not supposed to be interfering in a federal operation that they have warrants that are signed by a judge to remove these individuals. So why are regular individuals supposedly they're the innocent, they're there just for their First Amendment? How did you know that the ICE officers were going to be there? How did you know to gather your blowing whistle friends and coming out with your little outfits of whatever frogs you're gonna pick for that day to protest? Because you're scanning them, you're listening to their frequencies, and you're plotting against ICE. That should be a federal crime. That automatically should throw you in jail for a year. Like if you caught out there interfering, and ICE have they shouldn't even have to be telling people or giving them warning at all. They shouldn't even be there. It's not their business. They're taking out criminals that have been told that they have to leave the country. They're executing their warrants that's signed by a federal judge. Help me make it make sense. I don't understand. I just don't understand. I'm collecting stuff. Yeah, I love getting really cool stuff. It's just and Pokemon I've been opening for about a month now. I met really cool people within that community, and I spoke with one today. And I had a great conversation with the individual and really cool people, and I look forward to more conversations and possibly moving probably a lot of my things that I have, probably try to get them sold eventually, because I do have a lot of memorabilia, trading cards and comic books from the early 90s, from 1990 and 92. So they're pretty old. They're pretty old. And they're over 30 years old, and yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what I'm gonna do with a lot of things that I have. So and I got a lot of comic books. Yeah, she knew better. She knew that all this is all listen, it's all paid for by the Soros family, Soros and his son. That it's all that side of family. It's part of the Clintons. It's part of there's this really dark operation that's going on within the deeper deeps of the Democratic Party that is paying and funding for all this disruption. They are never happy. They're power hungry. They want things to go their way and only their way. And so hope their God, because I don't know what God that they pray to, because Jesus don't like ugly, and there's been a lot of ugly going on. And I'll tell you right now, the day I die, I'm gonna let Jesus know everything. I'm gonna let him know everything, and I'm gonna tell on everyone. And y'all better be nice, because Jesus is not gonna. He's gonna rain on y'all. He's gonna rain on you. Oh boy. All right. Let's continue. Let's see what we got here. We got a few more things here coming. Let's see what's this coming out of Iran. And a Trump and something from Minnesota. So let's see here. All right, let's take it from here. Set this up. I had to reopen it because StreamYard continues to have problem with the sound. So there's a lot of problems with StreamYard.
We got Fox team coverage for you kicking off this hour. Our chief foreign correspondent, Trey Yingst, live from Tel Aviv. But first, to our senior White House correspondent, Jackie Heinrich, live from the North Lawn. Any idea?
But that was a good catch with the Pokeball.
No, John. And the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, said only President Trump knows what he is going to do next. She also confirmed what he told reporters on Air Force One, that Iranian leaders called him looking to, quote, negotiate. He said a meeting right now is being set up, but also the U.S. might have to take some sort of action before that meeting because of what is happening.
Oh, yeah, you got some too?
Iranian,
Ooh, we got to
Crown
compare
Prince
books.
Made this appeal to the president. Listen.
Chloe, we're going to have a book battle. It's kind of like
already established your
Pokemon, but it's
legacy
comic
as a
book.
man committed to peace and fighting evil forces.
I think I'm going to do that.
There's
I'm
a
going to come up
reason
with a
why
game.
people in Iran are
It has to do
renaming
with comic
streets
books.
after your name. They know that you are totally opposite to Barack Obama or Joe Biden. They know that you're not going to throw them under the bus as they have had before. This is why they believe that this time they are empowered by the hope that you have their back.
Oh, yeah.
Tomorrow, the president will reportedly look over a range of options for U.S. intervention, ranging from strikes to sanctions to anti-government propaganda and cyber attacks on military and civilian sites. He also said he's considering calling Elon Musk to get Starlink up over Iran.
We're looking at it very seriously. The military is looking at it.
Yeah, because the internet, that's wild that they turned off the internet in Iran.
The protesters were
And also the phones, too. They cut the communication lines
we get a full report. I'm
in
getting an
and
hourly
out
report,
of Iran.
and we're going to make a determination.
Some Democrats, like Senate Intelligence Committee Vice Chair Mark Warner, have warned against a kinetic strike, saying it might unite the Iranian people against the West in a way the regime has not been able to do. Warner also cautioned against more foreign intervention by the U.S., as President Trump has been joking Secretary of State Marco Rubio would become a good president for Cuba. He's also been doubling down on his pursuit of Greenland. The president reiterated once again that if the U.S. doesn't, quote, take Greenland, Russia or China will, and he is not going to let that happen. John.
All right, Jackie Heinrich kicking us off from the White House. Thanks, Jackie. Sandra?
Okay, the Iranian people are now entering their third week of anti-government protests there, and the regime's responded with a deadly crackdown. Chief foreign correspondent Trey Yingst is reporting live from Tel Aviv for us at this hour. Hi, Trey.
Sandra, good afternoon. Intense anti-government demonstrations across Iran over the weekend were met with a brutal crackdown. A source in Tehran speaking with Fox News via Starlink described security forces open firing into crowds of people, using tear gas and arresting thousands. Human rights organizations say at least 544 people have been killed over the past 2 weeks. With an ongoing internet shutdown, the confirmed number is expected to increase significantly. Today, thousands of pro-government demonstrators took to the streets of Tehran at the request of the country's leadership. The Speaker of Iran's parliament spoke to a crowd blaming President Trump for the protests.
Unless Israel intervenes. What?
President Trump addressing the increase in violence when he was asked about this on Air Force One.
I don't even
that
understand
stop
what the
there
hell
that
he
you
said.
heard, you could hear the Speaker of Iran's parliament
You only
blaming
got, like,
the president
10
himself
comic
for
books?
these demonstrations. Now, President Trump said that Iran has reached out and wants to
man.
talk.
All right.
The president is reportedly weighing options
I
about
got
how
really
to
good
respond
bugs.
and support the demonstrators amid new threats from Iranian
send you
leaders
the
about
pictures. You can
striking
see them
U.S.
for
bases
yourself.
and Israel.
I got really nice.
Well, if they do that, we'll consider things targets they wouldn't
But I
believe.
got a lot of them.
If they
and,
do that, we will hit
like,
them
I have like
at levels
stored
that they've never been hit before.
like
And they won't even
a lot of.
believe it. I have options that are so strong. So I mean, if they did that, it'll be met with a very, very
I have like
powerful
little fortune. My own
Israeli
little
officials are
fortune.
also closely monitoring the situation, with forces here
Let's sell
on
them
high
all
alert. There are
give the
concerns
money to
that
my
strikes could open a new war with Iran.
like 10 years. Actually,
We all hope that the Persian
like
nation will
14
soon
years
be
from
freed
now.
from the yoke of tyranny.
And when that day comes, Israel and Iran will once again be
He turned
faithful partners in
18.
building a future of prosperity and peace for both peoples.
So that way, all this cards, the
It's
value
clear that
goes up.
American and Israeli
And the
officials
comic
are
books
watching
too.
what's happening on the ground in
I'm gonna
Iran
get them
very
graded,
closely. But as we move
and
forward, we have to
then
listen
it'll be
to
worth
what
a lot more.
Iranian lawmakers are saying.
Like,
Yesterday
I
at
have
the
books
country's
that could be
parliament,
worth
they chanted
thousands.
"Debt to America." John, Sandra?
Wow. Trey Yanks live there in Tel Aviv on that for us. Trey, thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to
Yeah, I
subscribe
mean,
to
we
Fox News.
need Greenland for sure, and I think America should continue to pursue it because it does make sense for the United States to have that territory, so that way we could militarize it more, put the big boy weapons, because they're not going to just put the weapons, the real true big weapons, in Greenland without the control of Greenland. They're not going to do it if the Danish is in control. You know what I mean? It makes zero sense. Like, if the United States is in control of Greenland and it's part of the United States, they could put the big boy weapons there. And that way it's a quicker response. And not only that, but it's part of the Golden Dome that they want to do. Okay. And they need Greenland so they could protect that whole area and the United States. And then for the western part, they're gonna like fortify more with Alaska and Hawaii and put more, of these interconnected, what's it called? The interconnected missile. I forgot the fucking name of it, motherfucker. Intercontinental missile. There you go. They really need these territories for that. That's why U.S. has Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands for a reason, because of Venezuela, Colombia, that whole area. You see how they had the jets flying out of the Dominican Republic, out of Puerto Rico. They had they fortified that area military wise. So for something like what happened with Venezuela, the U.S. can respond quicker than having to fly from wherever part of the United States to go over and operate. No, they need land to put their weapons, and they got a lot of weapons in Puerto Rico, and that's to cover that side. And we need Greenland to fortify that area, so that way we have control. We'll have some control of the shipping lanes from UK area there, like next to Iceland, and they'll have the Arctic part of Greenland, and that's a good area for submarines and icebreakers. We definitely need to protect our backyard, and I still think the United States should go after Greenland. I think it's a smart move. You got to be preventive before anything. You got to. This is just pieces of the puzzle. It's a big chess match. In certain countries, you need to require and have on your side. And that's what Trump is trying to do, get Greenland on our side so that way we could put our big weapons there. And then we're trying to get Iran to have their government overthrown so that way a new system could come in and probably be more America friendly. We need more friendlies. And that will really help out that region. And we're talking about what's happening now could have lasting effects that could last a century in Iran. And it's all happening now. So we hope for the people, and we want the people to do the right thing. And a lot of people are going to die, but there needs to be a change some way, somehow. And the Americans are very supportive of that. So there you go. Okay, let's go ahead and go to the next news segment here.
Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Shauna Kalafi. We're continuing to follow the situation in Iran as hundreds of people, according to activists, have been killed in protests there. And now President Trump putting this out on social media. This is from the White House saying, effective immediately, any country doing business with the Islamic Republic of Iran will pay a tariff of 25% on any and all
holy
business
shit.
being done with the United States of America.
Wow,
This order is
25%.
final and conclusive from President Donald Trump. So President Trump announcing that 25% tariff on any country doing business with the Islamic Republic of Iran. And of course, we know those protests
So
within
any
Iran
country
continue
doing
as well as
business with
here in the
Iran
U.S.
is going to
calling
get
for
a
regime
25%
change and an end to the Islamic
tariff
Republic.
added.
We want to show you a little bit of video from some of
Whoa.
those protests in Iran right
That's
now.
that's
The White House is also
oof.
weighing its options as this unrest in Iran is reaching a boiling point.
Oh
Those
boy.
human rights groups saying hundreds of anti-regime protesters have already been
I
killed.
think Trump is already
Dozens
sending
jailed. Fox News
stuff that way.
correspondent
And
Connor
I think
Hansen
it's
has the
going to be
latest.
Israel that's going to take the lead in helping Iranian people overturn the government of Tehran.
What began as protests over its weakened economy has brought a harsh and deadly crackdown by the regime. Human rights groups estimate hundreds of people have been killed and thousands more have been imprisoned. The government has shut down phone lines and internet. President Trump says the U.S. is prepared to act.
The military is looking at it, and we're looking at some.
You know what they say in the military is looking at it because they're looking at the satellites.
Have reportedly been
They're
weighing
seeing the
options
movement.
ranging from cyber attacks to direct military strikes. Iran has threatened retaliation. But despite the war of words, both sides appear willing to talk.
Iran called to negotiate.
The greatest leverage the regime
Iran
had just several
called
months
to
ago was their nuclear
negotiate,
program, which
but they're
President
calling
Trump
the death
and the
of
United
President
States
Trump.
military totally obliterated through
They're calling for
Operation
his
Midnight
death.
Hammer.
Democrats have denounced the Iranian regime's actions, but want the president to come to Congress and potential military action.
They're having their own freedom for not be using our troops or having boots on the ground without the prior authorization of Congress.
President Trump is reportedly meeting with his national security team Tuesday to go over options. In New York, Connor Hansen, Fox News.
We just told you about President Trump imposing a 25% tariff for companies doing business with Iran and the United States. We also have something new from the U.S. Embassy in Iran. They're urging any U.S. citizens within the country to leave. This is what they say. Leave Iran now. Have plan for departing Iran that does not rely on U.S. government help. They say if you cannot leave, find a secure location within your residence or another safe building. Have a supply of food, water, medication, and other essential items. They also warn U.S. citizens within Iran to avoid those demonstrations and to monitor local media for breaking news. However, we know that there is a internet and phone line blackout that has been going on there for several days.
That's
so
wild.
it may be hard for them to receive these communications. The U.S. Embassy in Iran also warning about possible land border closures. Although most of those borders still remain open, that could change, though, as this situation escalates. We've also seen many protests here in the U.S. calling for regime change in Iran. One yesterday in L.A. involving a big group of demonstrators and a U-Haul truck driving into that group. We're going to have more on that situation as LAPD is investigating the motive and exactly what happened there. We're going to have more on that coming up later in the show.
Just interesting. Let's keep it moving.
Meanwhile, the state of Minnesota and the Twin Cities of Minneapolis, St. Paul are suing the federal government to try to stop the surge of ICE enforcement.
Yeah, this after Homeland Security announced it was sending in more agents. ABC's Michelle Franzen has the very latest.
Fencing and concrete barriers placed outside the Whipple Federal Building in Minneapolis, where protesters returned today, demonstrating after an ICE officer shot and killed Renee Good last week. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and his wife visiting the growing memorial on the street where Good was shot. Across Minneapolis, immigration operations are ramping up. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem on Sunday saying hundreds more federal officers will be mobilized to Minnesota to help ICE and Border Patrol do their jobs. At a press conference today, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, along with Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry and St. Paul's Mayor, announced a lawsuit against Homeland Security over its federal deployment.
What? They're stupid for doing their job.
We are asking this federal government
to remove
stop
criminals.
The unconstitutional
You're protecting the
conduct
criminals.
that is invading our streets each and every day.
This guy's an
State and
idiot.
City authorities say demonstrations remain peaceful overall, despite heated clashes and arrests over the weekend.
Yo,
Federal
pepper spray them
agents
all.
arrived in one neighborhood, rammed the door open at a home, and later walked out with a man in handcuffs. There is growing criticism over the federal response to the deadly ICE shooting.
This is stupid. Look at this.
Demonstrations stretching across the country.
We need to get all these people
The White
out,
House
man.
today doubling down on their support for the operation
And
saying
gather all these
Jonathan
people that are
Ross
protesting,
acted in
right?
self-defense.
Start World War III and put them in the front lines. That's what I say. All those people, put them in the military and send them to war so they can fight for the country. So that way they'll have a little bit more pride in our country.
Along with Roosevelt High
Because these right here are nipple babies. They don't do nothing but protest. They get paid to protest. They got too much time on their hands. So you know what? Let's gather them up and put them in the front line. Fuck it. Listen, that's a great idea. True or not true? They have a lot of time on their hands. Let's start World War III. Let's get all these little protesters, all these people who are acting up. We'll do listen, we'll call them up. We'll do a draft. And all those people that are protesting and everything, they're going to hit the front. They're going to be the first ones to go. And then they could go fight for our country. So that's why they'll be more prideful of the U.S. and they could come back and protect the U.S. instead of doing what they're doing now. I mean, it makes zero sense that you're protecting people that are illegal in this country, people that have criminal records, that have warrants. These ICE agents have warrants signed by a federal judge to get these people out of there. Like, that's why they have a whole operation of a team to go to retract the individual. But then you have these, I don't know, you call them weekend warriors. They're not even weekend warriors because they don't even work. So you have these like slime balls out there interfering, causing pretty much chaos with their little whistles and blocking the ICE agents' vehicles. I've seen so many vehicles. Like, I've seen so many videos with vehicles blocking ICE. And I'm so astonished how this continues to happen and there's no accountability. Like, these people don't fear. They have no fear. They keep interfering and keep acting how they're acting. You know, it's like, I would get a water cannon, a water truck, and have them come along with the ice. And if these protesters just pop out of nowhere and so forth, spray them with water. Spray them with water, and you'll see them run like roaches. Because let me tell you something. It's very cold in Minnesota. And you don't want to get frostbite. You don't want to get hypothermia. You're going to want to get some warmth. You're going to get the fuck out of that cold weather. That's the only way you're going to be able to take care of all this situation. But, you know, that's if Trump was to listen to my show, I'm pretty sure he'd be like, damn, Rick, that's a great idea. It's less lethal. They have to make an option. They have their option. Go home, stay warm, stay healthy, or stay outside, catch hypothermia and frostbite and end up in the hospital and possibly die. That's your option. You were given an option. Oh, boy. They're lucky I'm not president of the United States. They're lucky. They wouldn't like me. They wouldn't like me. Oh, well. Let's go ahead and watch some liberal hive mind.
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And here's your meme of the day, brought to you by 5mind.com. Just as I've been saying the last couple of days, you cannot look at this ICE shooting in Minneapolis in a vacuum. There's a lot of context here, there's a lot of nuance, and for some reason, the Democrats, well, not for some reason, for a very obvious reason, the Democrats want to omit all the most important facts from the conversation. And obviously, that's not the way these situations work. Context is the most important part. And well, boy, do I have some key pieces of context here that really put things into perspective. We've got a police recording leak from over a month ago in Minneapolis that again shows exactly what these ICE agents are dealing with on the ground, exactly what Democrats are enabling and protecting. This, I guess, is what the Democrats don't want you to know about. Let's expose their dishonest emissions, shall we? We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks. So here's a post once again from the great Mazemore on X. He writes, "This was in Minnesota last month. This is illegal and dangerous. It happens regularly. Politicians and media encourage it. If this happens enough times, someone will lose their life. It's inevitable, and it is not the fault of ICE." Just take a look.
Officers get attacked. They're surrounded and they're being attacked. We only have a few officers, but we have, what did they say, 60 to 70 agitators that are fighting them, and we need help.
The group is getting larger here, and they're chasing after ICE.
This operation turned chaotic fast. Protesters throwing snowballs and shouting.
We only have a few officers, but we have, what did they say, 60 to 70 agitators that are fighting them. They're not answering their phone now, so I don't know if they got knocked out or what, but we need help.
ICE says officers sustained multiple injuries, including cuts. Local police did not find it necessary to intervene.
That right there shows exactly what's happening. That's the key context that you need to really analyze the situation properly. Because if you listen to the Democrats, they're painting this backward story as if it's ICE that's coming in and terrorizing these communities. But in reality, the ICE is coming in to enforce standing immigration law, and in many cases to protect communities. Crime is going down. Drug running is going down. What they're doing is protecting the country and its sovereignty. They're making American streets safer. And yet the left tells you that they're terrorizing communities. No, the only people that are terrorizing are clearly the far leftist goons on the streets. And in that call, you hear ICE agents desperately calling for help, but they are totally abandoned. They're calling for backup and getting no response. And it's exactly reinforcing what we've already covered, showing all these stand down orders that are being issued across Democrat states when it comes to providing backup for these ICE agents. Obviously, the politicians are in on this. And this is a situation now that is totally spiraling out of control. And the data, of course, backs that up. Look at this absolutely horrifying graphic here. Vehicular assaults on ICE are up 3,200% year over year, spiking from 2 in 2024 to 66 throughout the year of 2025. I mean, come on, that's an insane spike. And yet, despite the evidence, despite the obvious unacceptable nature of what Renee Good did, driving her car into an ICE agent, despite all the context surrounding this situation, the left is still defending her. Once again, defending the indefensible. And of course, included in the left is the leftist lamestream fake news media. Abby Phillips, of course, being the complete worst offender. Again, I'm questioning how this person is still on air. CNN was supposed to enact reforms to make their network more fair and neutral, and yet this is the slop that they're producing.
Do you really think that her intention in that moment was to run that officer over?
I mean, I think her intention was to move the car forward with a law enforcement officer standing in front of it.
Do you think that she meant to try to kill him?
I mean, I don't know, Abby, and I wouldn't have any way of knowing.
That is extremely
all I know is that.
I mean, Scott, don't you think that is extremely important as we try to understand what was going on here? I think if you're gonna if you're gonna say she was trying to kill him, you're basically saying she intended to kill him. And I asked you just point blank, and you wouldn't say that. Do you think that it is possible that she was trying to escape the interaction?
Escape what?
Yes.
Escape what?
Escape the
to armed men coming to her car.
I'm speaking English. Do you think it's possible that she was trying to escape
English.
the interaction?
Was she in danger?
Well, two armed men were approaching her car, telling her to get out of the car.
I'm confused. What part of escape is not understandable?
Escape like as though she were being pursued.
She's being surrounded by law enforcement officers.
Yes.
Do you think it is possible that she was trying to flee?
Flee? Yes. And I heard her, and I heard her wife say, "Drive, baby, drive."
Right. So,
and then she hit the accelerator.
All right, great. So
and she was looking.
Listen, I now, okay. now I feel like we're all in agreement that it is possible that she was not trying to kill the officer, that she was trying to flee, which may be wrong, but the intent does matter here.
It doesn't.
Because you are making it sound like that she showed up there with the intent to kill that officer.
I have never said that.
There's no
I have never said that, Abby. Here's what I believe. She showed up there with the intent to impede active federal law enforcement activities. She put herself in a position with a car in which she made a bad decision that caused the officer to believe his life was in imminent danger. That is not in dispute. Whether she intended to do that or not when she woke up in the morning is irrelevant. What did she do? Drive her car into the guy.
I think it
again with the same condescending and arrogant tone. Abby Phillips spews absolute dog shit out of her freaking mouth. Well, we don't know whether Renee Good actually intended on committing vehicular homicide. This, my friends, is a moot point. It is irrelevant. Whether she intended to run him over or not is not important. This is what you call a scapegoat. I don't care if her tires were turned to the side. The fact is that she accelerated her car, a 4,500-pound death machine, into the direction of an ICE agent, and he acted. And again, as we've clearly identified, the officer in question only fired his weapon after he was struck by the vehicle. But of course, none of the facts, none of the nuance, none of the context matters. They just continue to lie and lie and lie, constantly jumping through hoops and twisting themselves to find the next counter talking point, shifting the goalposts.
This lady in this car today, along with other vehicles, have been tracking ICE agents around. Why are people believing that they can drive their car into a federal law enforcement situation and that is an appropriate thing to do?
It does strike me, Scott, that we actually don't know that she was doing any of the things that you suggested. We don't know anything about what she was doing. I mean, do you know as a fact?
DHS has said out loud today that she had been tracking around ICE agents all day long. That is part of the report.
She's following I think that I've read everything there is to read about this woman so far. And we have very little information about that she was a part of a convoy.
She's not paying attention to
We don't know that she was trying to do anything particularly.
It was just an innocent mother who happened to be there. She wasn't part of an organized anti-ICE group that was obstructing federal law enforcement. Give me a freaking break when that gets debunked. Oh, no motive. We don't know if she actually meant to run him over, and therefore, as she explicitly states her intent to kill you, you have the right to defend yourself. What a dumbass. I mean, really, what else can I say? Oh, this Abby Phillips chick is unbelievable, especially the way she presents herself as such a heightened intellectual who's read everything and knows all the details and all the facts. She never knows jack squat. Another freaking useless DEI hire masquerading as a competent journalist. But obviously, I shouldn't get too caught up on the Abby Phillips thing because it's not just Abby Phillips, it's all of them. All they do is lie. And at the end of the day, this is very simple. In fact, it should also be simple for Democrats because as we're now learning, in 2020, a Minnesota law was passed by Governor Tim Walz, by the way, that says if a car moves towards a cop and they believe that it's a real threat, that they don't have to wait to get hit, they can shoot. No impact is required if a threat is perceived. That is a law that was signed by Governor Tim Walz. I think really it all boils down to this infamous tweet. It's amazing how much leftist discourse is just them pretending not to understand things, thus making discourse impossible. Exactly. This applies so well to what we're dealing with on the left right now. As if they don't understand basic concepts of self-defense. As if they don't understand the fact that a vehicle barreling towards you is clearly a deadly threat. As if Renee Good's intentions really mattered. As if the slight turning of the wheel really mattered. You know, we got Jacob Fry saying stuff like this.
Anybody can see these videos. Anybody can see that this victim is not a domestic terrorist. I mean, my goodness, she's like doing a 3 or a 4 or 5 point turn. This looks like somebody that's trying to get out of there. If doing a 3-point turn or a 4-point turn is a domestic terrorist, and my wife is a criminal every single day. It does not make sense.
It's purposeful ignorance. I mean, this guy doesn't actually believe that. Clearly, there's a difference. And clearly, the direction of the vehicle or the vehicle's tire doesn't really matter when you got an ICE agent standing a foot in front of you. Again, as we've stated a million times, he can't see the direction of those wheels. All he sees is a massive deadly weapon barreling towards him. What else is he supposed to do? Well, Democrats pretend to not understand any of this. The context, the nuance doesn't exist. They analyze this stuff within a vacuum, purposeful ignorance. They'll play ignorant, they'll lie, anything to preserve their political agenda. And once again, you see how truly dishonest they are. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
That's wild. You know, because she put herself in that position. She had the choice to go home, right? They're not talking about her poor choices of decision making that she made that day. You know, she took her kid to school, and instead of going home, instead of taking care of her errands and taking care of herself, she made a poor decision to interfere with her husband. I don't know how you would call the female husband, her husband. I would call it a husband because it's a female butch person. I don't know their pronouns. I don't give a fuck about their pronouns. They, them, he, who, he, she, what. Like, I don't know. I don't know. They're lost in the sauce, and I'm just here having a good time smoking my medicine. Let me tell you something. Oh boy, let the world go crazy. Instead of, like, you could tell they're part of an organization that is disruptive, that interferes, and this needs the train of truth is here. You hear the train of truth, and they go out and interfere, and they're being paid to do this. So we need to follow the money. We need to check her accounts, check her metadata, see if there's any deposits of a certain amount to them for doing something that, like, it should be, you know, they should be able to follow the money and follow where they're, who's paying them to do this stuff. And I'm sure they're gonna get to the bottom of it. They know who it is. It's part of the Soros. You know, that family is very heavily democratic, very non-friendly, and very disruptive. And they like to manipulate, and they always want control, and they think they're in control because they have money, because they think because they have a lot of money that they can do and say and do whatever and take out whoever whenever they want. I mean, this is all I know. Life is short, and if you're gonna fuck around, you're gonna find out. End of story. All right, let's see what else we got here. More in this Greenland. Let's see. I think Greenland. I don't know what's going on in Greenland. It's a little crazy.
Welcome back into Live Now from Fox, where we are continuing to track some of the major breaking news stories from over this weekend. I do want to bring us out to this live image that we have at the White House over in Washington, D.C., as we track everything having to do with President Trump and also his prospects and pushes for U.S. control of Greenland. The Associated Press saying this, that Greenland's party leaders have rejected President Trump's repeated calls for the U.S. to take control of the island, saying that Greenland's future must be decided by its people. I also have this, a social media post from Fox News. It says, not for sale. Greenland's leaders rejected Trump's push for U.S. control, declaring, quote, we don't want to be Americans. We don't want to be Danes. We want to be Greenlanders. Joining us now to discuss this even further is John Hardy.
What the fuck is that?
Foundation for the Defense of Democracy.
Yo, if Russia goes over there and bombs the fuck out of you, you're gonna be nothing nurse.
Of course. Let's get a full breakdown here for our viewers, though. Why is there a push from President Trump to gain control of the island of Greenland?
Well, Greenland is important to U.S. national security in a variety of ways. We have an important Space Force base there, which is used for early missile warning, space surveillance. Greenland is also strategically positioned in the Arctic, a region of growing significance to U.S. security. There are also kind of critical mineral resources in Greenland, although they'd be very costly and kind of hard to get out of the ground.
I also want to ask you this. Has this been the first time that we've heard of a U.S. president wanting to gain control of Greenland, or is this something and an idea that has been floated in the past?
It's been floated in the past.
No, President Trump also raised this during his first term, albeit less aggressively, and again, then was rebuffed by the Danes.
Want to showcase this, just some overview of Greenland here.
Would you
just
live
so our
there?
viewers can get a sense of what the territory looks
Would you
like
live
right
there?
now, what the
I love
country
snow.
looks like at the moment.
I think
President
it will
Trump
be
has been
perfect
saying
for me.
repeatedly that the U.S. must get control of Greenland.
Just because rain
and
drives
taking
me
over Greenland
crazy.
there because
Snow
he does
makes me
not want
happy.
Russia or China to be doing that. John, is
I'm
there
like,
any
Rick, you're
indication that
crazy.
Russia or China is having this
Damn
idea
right.
to also take over Greenland?
Looks pretty. Look at the sundog.
I wouldn't go that far. They're not going to take over the territory there. I think what President Trump is referring to is increased
that's so
Russian
pretty.
naval activity near the Greenland landmass, especially with its submarines, which are fairly capable. The Chinese have also attempted to make various investments in things like airports, former naval bases. There's plans for like a satellite ground station there. Many of those Chinese efforts have not come to fruition, in part because of pushback from countries in NATO, including the United States. I think that the bottom line is, while Greenland is very important to U.S. security, we do not need to take over the country there to
I mean,
secure
I
those
would live
interests.
there.
We have a 1951 defense agreement with Denmark that we
I'm just
have
saying,
and can
I mean-
continue to use to kind of
He doesn't
satisfy
love
our security
snow.
needs there. And I think if President Trump
A
went
lot
to
of snow.
our counterparts and said, "Hey, we need to increase our military presence there," they would be very, I think, welcoming and kind of ready to work with us.
Kind of going off of that last point, and I'm glad
I
you
wonder how
brought
much
that
is their
up
groceries
because a lot of the
there.
pushback, and there has been pushback, not just from
And then
Greenlanders,
what,
but the wider
what keep them doing,
globe,
Greenland?
and also from some of the president's constituents here back home in the U.S., is that the U.S. does not have to take over Greenland. They can just station more U.S. troops there. They are part of NATO. So is the U.S. Can you break down a little bit
Yeah,
for our
but
viewers what
you don't
has
want to
been
put
the
those
recent
big
activity of
weapons
U.S. troops
if
in
you don't have
Greenland?
control
How has it
of
changed
Greenland.
since President Trump has come back into the Oval
Because
Office?
then it's just doesn't make sense.
Well, during the Cold War, we had a really massive military presence there. It's shrunk now down to maybe a few hundred soldiers. Again, we have that important Space Force base used for early warning and kind of space surveillance. But like I said, if President Trump wanted to add more facilities there, wanted to increase the total number of troops, he could use that 1951 agreement. And I think he would find willing cooperation.
And kind of going back to some more of this reaction that we have had from several NATO members, who some of them have expressed concern over these latest comments from President Trump. What are they saying exactly? Which countries are pushing back the most, and who is really backing Greenland within this entire situation?
Well, obviously, the Denmark is reacting most strongly. I think that all European countries, all NATO countries for that matter, are concerned by the rhetoric coming out of the White House, especially the frankly absurd notion that the United States could use military force to take over Greenland. It just really shakes faith in the U.S. commitment to the alliance and the U.S. Reliability as a security partner. And I think European countries see it as a kind of a reprisal of 19th century gunboat diplomacy, where the U.S. just kind of comes in and shakes its fist and demands what it wants. When in fact, as I said, those security objectives could be achieved through more quiet, traditional diplomacy.
I know a lot of it is just, theorizing of what would come next. We only have the president's, comments to go off at this moment. Nothing really set in stone, nothing too official, just a lot of talk at this moment. When we look at NATO and what it is today, John, what would that look like, let's say, if the U.S. went forward with some of these comments that the president has been saying about taking over Greenland for those national security issues? How would that change NATO as we know it?
Well, if the United States military were to invade Greenland, which I do not think is going to happen, that could very well be the end of NATO. I mean, it's just pretty unthinkable to imagine the United States military using force against a NATO ally, a long-standing one, actually Denmark in Afghanistan, which again was the only time the alliance has ever invoked Article 5, the commitment to collective defense. Denmark, per capita, took the most casualties there. So I think all this rhetoric is just really hurtful and disrespectful to allies that have bled for the United States.
John, before I let you go, is there anything else that you feel that you have to add in order to give some more context to our viewers? This conversation is not something that's going to go away. We're going to continue to cover it. So as we look ahead to what's going to come of these comments from President Trump, with respect to Greenland, also with respect to the wider NATO alliance, what should we be keeping in mind?
Yeah. Well, I would just respectfully remind President Trump that NATO countries remain committed to the alliance. We just had a historic agreement, thanks in large measure to President Trump's efforts to increase alliance defense spending to 5%. And I think there's a broad agreement across Europe that European nations need to take responsibility for their own conventional defense. They're fully seized of this notion. I think that they are committed to making NATO a successful alliance and to combating the Russian and Chinese threats. And so all the objectives, as I said, that President Trump wants to achieve in Greenland can be achieved by working with those countries. We do not need to take unilateral measures here.
John Hardy, the Deputy Russia Program Director with the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. We appreciate your time here at Live Now from Fox. We look forward to speaking with you soon.
Thank you.
Okay, let's keep it moving.
Committee Vice Chair is Darrell Issa, and the good congressman joins me now. What do you think are our military options in Iran, Congressman?
Are somewhat similar, Stuart, to what we've already seen. But there are other options. As you know, before going in to get Maduro, they started taking ships off the high sea. The president has that capability to literally enforce sanctions by removing ships carrying Iranian oil. In the appropriations just underway right now, in the reorganization of the Voice of America, dramatic changes, getting rid of wasteful programs, but plussing up Iran, Cuba, and China interdiction in the way of communication. And most importantly, the president has the respect of the world. So when he says that he needs to have a coordinated effort against Iran, this time he'll get it.
A report shared by White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt says U.S. forces used a sonic weapon in the Maduro raid. Eyewitnesses suggested that when the weapon was used, people fell to the ground with blood coming out of their nose. What do you know about sonic technology?
Well, there's some thank you for that question. There's some sonic technology that's manufactured right in San Diego, and it's used by the Coast Guard and so on. And it can be used anywhere from long-range talking to painful to even the symptoms you said. And it's one of the many non-lethal tools the United States had. In this case, it saved a great many lives by disabling rather than simply shooting or blowing up many of the guards. So these non-lethal, non-kinetic weapons are part of the growing arsenal that President Trump is leading to make sure that our troops have.
I talked about this. You haven't seen anything yet.
I've got one more for you. President Trump says he's committed to taking over Greenland. He says China and Russia will take it over if we don't. Congressman, are Russia and China actually moving on Greenland already?
Well, the Russians, that's a great question. The Russians have already dominated the Northwest Passage with their icebreakers and their activities up there. And so, you know, when you look at it, we only have a small part, the Alaska coast, that's up on that side. But Canada and Greenland both need to be able to protect that area. Greenland, backed by Denmark, is unable to do so. And so just as we all look back on the Louisiana Purchase and realize that without it, America would be nothing close to what it is today, it may well be that the president is seeing what others will later see, that Greenland needs to be under the protection, control, and potential development by the United States, and that a purchase could be in the best interest both of Denmark, who cannot deal with that threat from Russia, and the United States and Canada, who are prepared on behalf of NATO and on behalf of our people to protect the entire Northwest Passage.
It's all happening, is it? Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua, Greenland. How about that? Carlson, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks for being with us.
All right, let's keep it moving.
Resurfaced video from Fox Carolina is going viral on X, featuring one of Mayor Zohran Mamdani's transition advisors on crime, raging that she didn't, quote, give a damn if BLM rioters torched a Target during the 2020 George Floyd protests that swarmed Minneapolis.
Enough is enough. And we are not responsible for the mental illness that has been inflicted upon our people by the American government, institutions, and those people who are in positions of power. I don't give a damn if they burn down Target. Because Target should be on the streets with us, calling for the justice that our people deserve.
The woman in the video, Tamika Mallory, was announced in November as one of more than 24 people tapped to serve on Mamdani's community safety transition team. In the fiery 2020 speech, which was dubbed by some as the speech of a generation and garnered significant media attention, Mallory went on to claim that, quote, America has looted Black people.
Don't talk to us about looting. Y'all are the looters. America has looted Black people. America looted the Native Americans when they first came here. So looting is what you do. We learned it from you. We learned violence from
very
you.
ignorant.
Mallory, a Harlem native, has been a longtime community activist and was one of the founding members of the Women's March. Mallory and two other founding members, Linda Sisson and Maureen Bob Bland, found themselves in hot water after being dogged by accusations of anti-Semitism. In February 2018, Mallory attended and received a shout-out at a Nation of Islam Louis Farrakhan event in which the firebrand anti-Semite called Jews satanic, claimed they ran the American and Mexican governments, and were encouraging marijuana use among Black men to their detriment. As criticism of Mallory's attendance at the event flourished, the activist took to X to damage control. This is a thread. It seems I am not being clear. I am and always have been against all forms of racism. I am committed to ending anti-Black racism, anti-Semitism, homophobia, and transphobia. This is why I helped create an intersectional movement to bring groups together. During an episode of The View, then host Meghan McCain ripped into the anti-police activist for attending the Farrakhan event.
I don't speak for Jewish people, but I think I'm just confused. These remarks are, I mean, it goes on death to Israel over and over again.
We did not make those remarks. You can't.
But you're associating with a man who died.
You were there.
What I will say to you is that I don't agree with many of Minister Farrakhan's statements.
Specifically about Jewish people.
As I said, I don't agree with many of Minister Farrakhan's statements.
Do you condemn them?
I don't agree with these
I don't agree, but
the Women's March organization cut ties with the trio in 2019, claiming the leaders served out their terms. Since the Women's March upheaval, Mallory continued to find herself broiled in controversy while continuing her activism. In one interview with online entertainment outlet The Jasmine Brand, Mallory made it clear that she supported abolishing the police entirely.
So I definitely support defund the police. You know,
another stupid one.
I'm not the author of it, but I have adopted the language because there's a big difference between abolishment and defunding. Abolish police would be to get rid of police forever, right? And
then you're not going to pay them money.
Mallory has not landed an official job with the Mamdani administration, though her controversial remarks are among the latest to resurface from advisors or aides linked to the Democratic Socialist mayor. Catherine Almonte da Costa abruptly resigned in December, soon after she was appointed as the city's next director of appointments, after newly unearthed social media posts revealed a series of anti-Semitic comments, including her rants about, quote, money-hungry Jews and defunding NYPD, quote, piggies. Mamdani's radical new tenant advocate, Sia Weaver, recently came under fire too, for previously blasting homeownership as a weapon of white supremacy.
What? What in the world am I listening to? Hold on, let's bring it back to me. What is going on in the world? What is going on? I feel like I'm living in the upside down. Like talking about Stranger Things. Like these all are fucking strangers. And they all got things. And I'm scared of their things because the way they think, it's what's how people think like that? How can like that mindset be possible right now? Just blows my mind. I mean, ever since I woke up from that coma, everything's been so upside down. It's just so weird. Everything's just weird to me. All right, let's keep it moving. Let's see what else we got. Got something out of Connecticut. So let's check out what's going on in Connecticut.
Everyone is smiling for the camera. Some grocery stores are now using facial recognition to crack down on theft.
But is this an invasion of privacy? Your chief political reporter, Susan Raff, live right now in Canton, where ShopRite is using the technology. Susan?
Mark, theft is a problem for a lot of grocery stores, and facial recognition is one way to fix that. However, some lawmakers and shoppers feel there needs to be some restrictions. You may not have seen them, but there are signs on the doors going into ShopRite here in Canton telling customers facial recognition technology is in use. That means there are cameras in the store taking pictures of you. Supermarkets are using these cameras for their security system to crack down on theft.
I'm one of those moms that runs in and out, and I didn't even take notice, but I guess it kind of concerns me. And my husband, we're very careful about what we put online.
Customers like Kelly want to know where that data is being stored and shared with.
It's everywhere, right? They use it in airports, you know. It's coming to everything, I believe.
Wakefern, the company that owns ShopRite, tells us this technology is not used for any other purpose. Video footage is regularly deleted, never sold, and may be shared with law enforcement when a crime
Why are you
occurs.
recording that?
However, some lawmakers want more protections,
That makes
such
zero
as
sense.
consent from customers or that signs be posted.
So there's something about your overall understanding of privacy that you want behavior turned over and certainly sold without your consent to other companies.
Republican Senator Paul Cicarella says this is a valuable tool for stores, but
If you're gonna do that, then
agrees
lower
there
the
could
price
be
of the
checks
food.
and balances.
And I understand it could be a concern, and we should address that, but we should not ban this tool altogether.
Wegmans also uses facial recognition. They
What?
recently opened a store in Norwalk.
Do you have a choice anymore? That's the problem. You don't have a choice. No matter where you go, this is their property. They're gonna do what they want.
That's crazy.
It's not clear if Wegmans uses these cameras at their Norwalk store. However, they are using them in their New York stores where there are laws that say that signs have to be posted telling customers that those cameras are in use. We reached out to the ACLU today. They have serious concerns about the cameras. They say it raises concerns about privacy and also racial justice. Your chief political
Racial
reporter, Susan Ruff,
justice?
Channel 3, live in Canton tonight.
All right, Susan, thank you.
Susan, you sound crazy, Susan. Let's go to liberal hive mind because Susan. Oh Lord, but that's really weird. Hold on, let's bring it to me for a second for a liberal hive mind. That's just weird, right? Why would they need to get facial recognition for? I mean, they want to prevent people from stealing, right? But is that really gonna stop people from stealing? What they're gonna do when they see that person again? They're gonna like hawk them or something. Like I don't get the whole notion of it. I mean, can it help deter? I mean, is deterring the people that don't want to be recognized? People don't want to be flashing their faces and getting their faces all scanned. I, for one, wouldn't want that. Like, why would I want to be scanned for? I'm just going to fucking do groceries. You know what I mean? I'm gonna fucking, if you're going there for a purpose, then you know they already got cameras up in the sky. They already have cameras looking downwards. So why the intrusion from a facial that you have to grab? You know, facials. I mean, Walmart does it. I mean, Walmart here in Connecticut, all of them, I'm sure they have cameras on the side of their pillars. As you're walking in, they take facial pictures as you're walking in. So it's not just Wegmans, it's not just ShopRite, it's also Walmart. And I'm surprised that the news has not even noticed when I go to my Walmart next time I go, I'll take a picture of it. Actually, maybe I'll go tomorrow. Because I'm gonna go grab me some Pokemon. Gotta grab them all when you get a chance, because Walmart only gives you 5. Only you could buy 5 items of Pokemon per day, and kind of sucks. But it is what it is, and early bird gets the worm. So I will probably be there early, and I got a doctor's appointment tomorrow morning too. So I got a pretty busy morning tomorrow, and but once I get all that wrapped up and stuff, I should be able to be free, and then I'll be back on here, same time, same place, and let's get to it with Liberal Hive Mind.
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And of course, here's your meme of the day, brought to you by 5mind.com. Well, friends, it appears as though the walls are closing in on little Ilhan Omar and Tim Walz. It's obvious why these two characters are flailing. It's likely because they know they have nowhere left to run. And the details that we're finding are just so incredibly damning that they're left with no other option to kick and scream in defiance. Every day that goes by, it gets worse and worse for them, and holy moly, today is no different, I'll tell you that. We've got all kinds of updates and information that's likely got Tim Walz and Ilhan Omar freaking quivering in their boots. I'm going to show you guys the latest updates, but this video is actually brought to you by a sponsor, so let's first play that clip. This video is brought to you by Raycon. Well, as the holiday season is now coming to an end, people are getting back resolution of getting back into shape. It's back to the gym, going walks, trying to get active. And of course, if you're quality wireless open earbuds, folks, these are the absolute best. I've been saying it for years. I've been using them for years. Ilhan Omar is now under investigation over reports that her and her husband enriched themselves through Somali fraud. Take a look at this.
There are reports that members of Congress are actually receiving daycare and healthcare clinic money funneled through various PACs. If this is true and widespread, how can the American people trust Congress to task and uncover the far-reaching tentacles of this fraud?
Any member of Congress that's getting any money unethically or illegally, there's an ethics committee, and it's a bipartisan. It's an equal number of Republicans and Democrats, and that's the committee that's supposed to investigate members of Congress. The ethics committee was created. We have in our rules that we're not supposed to investigate other members, but the ethics committee has a staff, and that is their sole purpose for existence in life. And I think the House Ethics Committee traditionally has been a lot harder on unethical behavior than the Senate Ethics Committee. That's my opinion. But anybody that has information on a member of Congress, bring that to the Ethics Committee and they'll investigate it. I don't care if they're a Republican or Democrat. We need to hold them accountable.
What about Ilhan Omar?
Yeah, well, I mean, she's at the top of the suspect list in that, so we'll see. But I can tell you, my members, there are going to be ethics complaints filed against Omar. She had an opportunity to come in here today.
Yeah, she was actually right across the hall at the Black Caucus lunch.
If there was anything about Kentucky, I would have been there, and I think that's the way it is with most members, especially the Somali. This is a hearing about Somali fraud. There have been countless reports that her husband has profited in some way, and she in some way, shape, or form. I don't know if that's true or not, but she could have had an opportunity to come in here and defend herself. So hopefully you all may knock on her door and ask her some questions, and we'll see what she has to say.
And now, of course, I'm sure she's going to claim victimhood and racism. Ooh, racism. But no longer will we let these red flags go unnoticed. You know, just like autism claims spiked from roughly a couple $1 million a year to over 300 million, Ilhan Omar's net worth went from negative 67K to now over $30 million. And clearly, that's the reddest flag of all. You know, when a little gangster, a little thug, all of a sudden starts buying Lamborghinis and a $15 million mansion on the A1A in South Florida, well, it usually raises a red flag for the feds, and then they start questioning, where did that money come from? How the hell did this little shit get all that? Well, the same thing should apply to Ilhan Omar. Where did that money come from? And now, following all the revelations in Minnesota and, of course, the proximity to Ilhan Omar, well, no stone should be left unturned, especially when you got damning reports like this one.
What I uncovered the other day in one of our spending
bills making its way through Congress was a $1 million earmark from Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota, which was an earmark that was supposedly going to a substance abuse clinic, which actually happened to be housed in a restaurant and run by 3 individuals that share the same residential address, according to their IRS paperwork. Tons of red flags. So this is what we saw with the fraud involving the daycare centers. Now we see other earmarks coming directly from members of Congress where it seems fraud is being perpetrated as well. So I raised the issue, and fortunately, the House has now stripped that earmark out of that spending bill. But again, this is how easy money has been flowing to bad actors in Minnesota.
It has been revealed that Ilhan Omar allegedly attempted to launder $1 million in the form of a giant grant to what was supposed to be a Somali substance abuse clinic, which when investigated turned out to be a frickin' restaurant. Unbelievable. And again, slotting in perfectly with everything that we know about all this Minnesota Somali fraud. Set up a fake government program that's branded as altruistic, and then launder the damn money through a totally different entity or a totally different purpose. And usually the purpose, it seems, entails buying Lamborghinis in Africa. Unfrickin' believable. Again, we don't necessarily have a smoking gun on Ilhan Omar just yet, but the red flags are no longer being ignored and she is officially under investigation. And now moving on to the next character who, well, we certainly have some smoking guns, less of a nothing burger and more of a triple patty burger. Yeah, Tim Walz is so utterly screwed. We're actually hearing rumors bouncing around that he might even resign from office, not just pulling out of the governor's race, but fully resigning. Well, I think I know why.
This was definitely the most egregious thing I have seen, maybe in my whole time working at OLA.
27 years with the Office of the Legislative Auditor, a statement like that from Judy Randall means something. After past suspicions, she says her most recent audit proved state workers were fabricating documents to cover up mismanagement of taxpayer money.
So these documents should exist. They didn't. We asked for them. All of a sudden, they now exist. And in at least one case, it was created wholesale and backdated by 2 years to give the impression that it had always been there and been done on time.
The OLA audited the Behavioral Health Administration within the Department of Human Services, which issues grants, nearly $200 million of taxpayer money each year to addiction and mental health service providers. But the audit found BHA was not making sure those providers were doing the work.
BHA didn't conduct the site visits. Our auditors went and conducted the site visits that BHA should have done. Wow. And we identified serious concerns that services weren't being provided.
The Minnesota Legislative Auditor now confirms that Tim Walz's employees fabricated records to cover up fraud. And you know, all the talk of, oh, we've been visiting all these locations and ensuring that they're totally compliant. Well, apparently they did 0 site visits to locations that received hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars. Yeah, one of those locations was probably the Leering Center. All it would have taken is 5 freaking seconds, read the sign, and obviously it makes no sense. Clearly, people who can't spell the word learning or Nicolette shouldn't be in the business of early childhood education. And also an interesting update, the Leering Center has officially closed, which is kind of funny, right? Because a couple weeks ago, they were telling us, no, they're a perfectly legitimate business with all kinds of employees and customers. Yeah, I guess that was a ruse now, wasn't it? A ruse that only monumental morons like this guy freaking fell for. But yeah, it's getting even worse for Tim Walz. It appears as though now it's less criminal negligence and now possibly a full-blown criminal cover-up. Tim Walz's goons are now being accused of cooking the books. This is willful blindness on a criminal level, and it's likely complicit, just like we saw with Keith Ellison. I believe this was a political relationship. This was a give-and-take situation to lock in Somali political support. There's obviously a whole lot of probable cause here. There's major red flags all over the place, and all the roads seem to be leading to these 3 characters, these 3 main big Democrats in Minnesota, and now's the time to hold them accountable for what happened. If trust is ever to be restored in the American system, what is happening in Democrat states cannot go unpunished. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Thank you so much, Liberal Hive Mind. Great show. I love that show. And yeah, I mean, accountability. We got to bring back accountability, make accountability great again. Tyson has a shirt out on his channel where you can purchase And that's the next show we're going to be watching. We're going to be watching Tyson De La Cruz. We got back to back 3 straight videos of Tyson De La Cruz, and then I'm wrapping up the show because I would like to go to sleep early tonight. I feel very tired from the chiropractor today, and my neck is like really jacked up a bit, and my back is feeling like ugh. So I definitely want to be laying down. You can't see my face, but I got some tears in my eyes, and that's because it's painful. All right, so let's go ahead and set this up for Tyson. But we need to make accountability great again. That's all it is. Make accountability great again. The true MAGA way. You know? That's a slogan right there. You can put that on a shirt. You know? I'm not asking for royalties or anything like that. I just want the message to be spread around. Make accountability great again. That's it. America's already great. The day I was born, it was the day of my luck. You know, it was one of the luckiest days of my life that I was born in this country instead of anywhere else in this world. You know, and I'm here, and I have a purpose, and I'm still searching and finding answers along the way. But every day is a new day, and every day is a search. So don't give up and keep moving forward. Don't hesitate, you know. Just go for it. Whatever you want to do in your life, if you want to be whatever you want to be, do it 100%. Full gas, no break. And let's go ahead and watch some Tyson De La Cruz.
Because I understand, or at least have attempted to understand through your voices, your concern.
America, I
Oh,
just
my.
watched a police chief break down in tears at a press
No
conference.
way.
Not because his officers died, not because the innocent civilians were hurt, but because he had to admit
I did
2
see this, bro.
Venezuelan
That was
gang
funny.
members shot by Border Patrol were actually connected to Tren de Aragua. Portland's army of barista beta males are out here defending gang members who tried to run over federal agents. And the media, they're running interference like their lives depend on it.
We are all shaken and outraged by another terrible, unnecessary, violent event
What is
instigated
wrong
by
with
the
these people,
reckless
man?
agenda of the Trump administration.
Terrible,
Why?
unnecessary, violent event caused by Trump's reckless agenda, not by the gang members who tried to commit vehicular homicide.
No, they don't see that part. They don't hear that part. They only want their narrative.
What is up, guys? Tyson De La Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. This is what happens when low testosterone leadership meets media manipulation. Let me start with the most pathetic part of this press conference, the apology. Bob Day is literally apologizing for sharing information about criminals.
I hesitated to even share this information initially because I'm very aware of the historic injustice of victim blaming.
Historic injustice of victim blaming. These are gang members who weaponized a vehicle against federal agents, and he's worried about victim blaming. This is what happens when you
Oh
promote
my
based on
God.
ideology instead of competence.
I want to speak for just a moment specifically to my Latino community.
What?
Because I understand, or at least have attempted to understand through your voices, your concern, your fear,
What's wrong
your
with you?
anger.
My Latino community. He's treating an entire ethnic group
My
like they're personally
Latino-
offended by existence of
Yeah,
Latino
white
gang
man.
members. That's actually racist.
That's
Assuming
racist,
that
yeah.
law-abiding Latino citizens identify as violent criminals just because they share ethnicity. You know what should sadden you, Mr. Chief Bob? That Portland has become a magnet for gang activity, that Border Patrol has to conduct operations in your city, that your sanctuary city policies force federal agents to work without local support, that you're more concerned about feelings instead of facts. This man has been so thoroughly
Damn.
feminized by progressive ideology that basic truth-telling
DEI hire,
requires
I'm telling you,
emotional
DEI
support
fucked
teams
up
and a
America.
box of tissues. Let me tell you who Portland's leadership is crying about. Tren de Aragua isn't some community organization helping immigrants adjust to American life. They are a transnational criminal enterprise that makes MS-13 look like a neighborhood watch program. These aren't people fleeing from violence. violence. They are violence. Human trafficking, drug distribution, extortion, murder. We've been talking about it on this channel for a long time. They've been flooding into the United States when Biden had his open border policy, and they're setting up operations in cities with, you guessed it, weak leadership, cities like Portland.
Politicians and protesters across Oregon are condemning federal immigration enforcement in Portland after a Border Patrol agent shot 2 people in the Hazelwood neighborhood.
Every single time, because defending criminals is more important than protecting citizens when you're a Democrat politician. It's not a bug, it's a feature. This wasn't some random encounter. Border Patrol conducted a large targeted operation against individuals known with gang affiliation. They identified themselves as federal agents. The driver chose to weaponize his vehicle. That is not a tragic accident. That's attempted murder on a federal agent. But Portland wants you to believe that this is some human rights violation. Now let's talk about the people who showed up to defend these gang members. Portland's finest barista beta males. They're out here lecturing federal agents about the use of force.
We are standing here today, united as a state,
This
wanting
crowd.
peace and safety in our communities.
United as a state.
Because you know why?
wanting
That's the
peace
voters.
and safety.
The
You want
Democrats,
peace? You
they
want
brought in the
safety?
illegals.
Stop
That's they
protecting
need them.
gang members. Stop creating sanctuary
That's why they
policies
can't
that
get rid of
shield
them, because
violent
they need their
criminals.
vote.
Stop crying when federal agents do their job that you refuse to do or vote for. These are the same people at every left-wing cause in Portland, available to protest at 2 p.m. on a Thursday because employment is apparently optional. Soft, feminized men who've never faced real danger, lecturing people about putting their lives on the line. I guarantee you not one of them knows the suspect tried to run over the agent. They don't care about gang affiliations. They don't care about federal immigration enforcement. They don't care. Federal immigration enforcement is happening and their programming says it's bad. That's the extent of their analysis. This is what happens when an entire generation grows up without fathers, without discipline, without any concept of personal
Accountability.
responsibility. They become professional protesters, defending gang members because it makes them feel morally superior while sipping on an oat milk latte. Now watch how the media strips the story out of all context to manipulate your emotions.
2 people are in the hospital after Portland police say a U.S. Customs and Border Protection agent shot them in Southeast Portland.
2 people shot by Border Patrol, not gang members, not illegal immigrants, not suspects who tried to commit vehicular homicide, just 2 people. This is deliberate linguistic manipulation. If they told you the full story, Trende Aragua gang members weaponized their vehicles against to make it sound like Border Patrol randomly shot innocent people.
We are all shaken and outraged by another terrible, unnecessary, violent event instigated by the reckless agenda of the Trump administration, coming just one day after the tragedy.
Immediately connecting it to Minnesota pattern. Another unnecessary violent event instigated by Trump's reckless agenda. Not instigated by gang members trying to murder federal agents. Not instigated by illegal immigrants who shouldn't even be here. Trump's fault for enforcing immigration law. They're trying to convince you, they're trying to convince me that the problem is federal agents doing their job, not violent criminals they're removing from our streets. And here's what nobody wants to talk about. Portland created this entire situation through their own policies. They are a sanctuary city that actively obstructs federal immigration enforcement. They refuse to cooperate with ICE and Border Patrol. So when federal agents have to conduct operations without local support, when they can't coordinate with local police, when they're operating in hostile environments, operations obviously become more dangerous for everybody.
There is an association with the 2 folks yesterday and TDA. I hesitated to even share this information initially because
doing what he's doing.
I'm very aware of the historic injustice of victim blaming.
He knows that these are gang members. He knows that they tried to run over federal agents. He knows that Border Patrol was justified. But admitting these facts contradicts Portland's progressive ideology. So he just cries. He apologizes. He talks about Hispanic injustice because in Portland, Telling the truth about criminals is more controversial
And
than
why
the
are there so
crimes
many Hispanics in
themselves.
Portland?
This is the sanctuary city scam. Create policies that
Why are there so
protect
many
criminals,
Hispanics
obstruct
in
federal law enforcement,
Oregon?
then act shocked when those policies lead to
Why are there so
dangerous
many illegals in
situations, then
Oregon?
blame Trump, blame Border Patrol, blame everybody except for the politicians who created this mess.
They want
If
their
Portland
vote. That's why
cooperated with
they don't
federal
want to let them
immigration
go.
enforcement,
They're gonna
these gang
fight
members could have been picked up in a
these
controlled
voters.
environment. Instead, Border Patrol
Remember,
had to conduct
everybody
a
is a
field
vote.
operation that
All these
ended with
people, they
shots
vote.
fired. Portland's policies made this more dangerous, and now they're crying about the consequences. Let me share a radical concept with Portland protesters and crying police chiefs. When federal agents identify themselves and give you commands, you comply. You don't weaponize your vehicle. You don't try to run them over. You comply. And you live. It's not complicated. It's not controversial. It is basic common sense that you would think every functioning adult should understand. But Portland's progressive ideology has corrupted people's thinking so thoroughly that they can't accept this simple principle. Instead, they want to debate whether federal agents should be allowed to defend themselves. They want to investigate whether shooting somebody who's trying to run you over is excessive force. They want to apologize for admitting that suspects are gang members. When you consistently side with violent criminals over law enforcement, when you protect gang members over American citizens, when you create policies that make your city a magnet for illegal immigration and crime, you're working against civilization itself. The compliance principle is absolutely simple here. Don't try to murder federal agents and you won't get shot. But that's too much common sense for Portland's leadership or Portland's people to handle. America, Portland's crying police chief perfectly symbolizes progressive leadership failures. He's more concerned about offending people than actually protecting them. He's more worried about being called a racist than stopping gang violence. The barista beta males protesting don't have jobs. They don't know the facts, and they don't care about American citizens victimized by criminals they're defending. They're soft men who've been so indoctrinated that they'll defend Venezuelan gang members. They won't mention gang affiliations or attempted vehicular homicide. Just blame Trump and hope you don't ask any questions. Portland chose sanctuary policies over public safety. They chose ideology over reality. Now they're crying because federal agents had to do their job that Portland refused to do. They created this crisis through their own policies, and now they are demanding sympathy for the consequences. The compliance principle remains simple. Don't try to run over federal agents and you won't get shot. But apparently, that's too much for Portland to handle. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comments section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe. And as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.
All right. Thank you for that upload there. What? We know the reason why. Chain of Truth is here. Very loud tonight. I like listening to it. Okay, Train of Truth, thank you. The reason why the Democratic Party is up in a roar like the way they are right now, and they're doing all this distraction with the protests and everything that's happening, and the reason why is because they don't want these individuals to leave, because they know if they leave, they lose a vote. If their family leaves, they lose a family's vote, and those vote counts in elections for the Democratic Party. And they know that the more that ICE comes and takes these people away, that's a vote taken away from the Democratic Party. So that's the true reason why the Democrats are doing what they're doing, and it's infectious, and they're all throughout the United States, and this is a big time problem. I don't know what the United States could do to eradicate this TDA TDS. I mean, that Trump derangement syndrome. There's a lot of people that have it, and just understand how did they get brainwashed, what signals have been beamed to their brains to make them think and feel this certain way. I know everything has to do with the frequencies in the air, and a lot of the frequencies are being manipulated as I speak. That is mentally getting into people's minds. Like the frequencies are getting into people's minds, and it's becoming very mental. And people are not making rational decisions; they're making very stupid decisions. And you wonder, like, how, like, who taught this child growing up? How was their lives, growing up as a child, their family? Were they reprimanded a lot? Were they like told no a lot? Or were they always told yes and they were never told the child no? So the child grew up a certain way, and it turned out to be the Super Karens Democratic Party. um I don't know, it's a weird world we live in. The mental, the mind, the brain. It's That's why I say we're all aliens, but we're all one of one, because we are all just one within this world, and we all have eyes to see. But like, seeing is believing, and if you don't look at the evidence, from beginning to end, you can't just rush to conclusion. You can't just rush to judgment and expect everything to be like, no. You have to see from the beginning, go rewind back 10, 15, 20 minutes before everything happened. How did this person get to the location where they're at? Is there video of beforehand of this individual harassing and taunting the officers while they're conducting their operation? I want to see all the videos that I can possibly see before I come into a determination or a conclusion to anything that's going on within that case that happened over in Minnesota. So, it's just, can't just jump to conclusion. But from the videos that I've seen, a lot of videos that I've seen, especially from the officer, the shooting is justified. And those Democrats, they're going to have to pull back on their little tactics that they're doing, because this is all the Democrats that are doing this. There's no Republican out there in the streets that is protesting what happened. There's not one, because not one has stepped up and spoken about this. So we know they're not out there. So who's really behind this? Who's conducting these operations of mass disruption? Because it's all distraction. And it's like, oh my God, look what's going on here. And then you look from above, it's just a small little crowd, like a small crowd. But they blow it up like it's this big riot going on. But it's just a small crowd, because this country, voted Trump in office with an agenda. And the agenda is to get this country back in order, make America great again, not to fall backwards 2 steps like Biden did, falling down. Like, we're not doing that. We're moving forward. And like it or not, you're going to have to change your ways, because I'll tell you, Democrats, it's not looking good for you guys. It's just not. And you guys being more infiltrated more and more every day. And that's very disturbing. So with that said, we're going to watch the second episode of Tyson de la Cruz. Let's go.
Florida's governor today announcing the results of Operation Tidal Wave, revealing that more than 10,000 immigrants living in Florida illegally have been detained since April.
America, while protesters are crying about
My boy Tyson, what's up, boy?
Florida quietly
We gotta get his
more
butt back over here in the show.
than any other state in the country.
I'll try to get him this
10,000
Thursday.
detained since April through what's called Operation Tidal
text
Wave.
him
Not
after
hundreds,
the show.
not thousands, 10,000.
These are real metrics. This is real progress.
Programs like Operation Tidal Wave led to over 10,000 immigration-related arrests in 2025.
But here's what CNN won't tell you. 63% of those detained had prior criminal records. We're talking about violent offenses, crimes. These aren't families seeking asylum. These were criminals who were preying on American communities. And while Florida is protecting its citizens, These protesters in Boca Raton are demanding ICE leave because apparently deporting violent criminals is the real crime.
Waving faucet signs and chanting. Hundreds of protesters lining the streets of Glades Road in Boca Raton.
What is up, guys? Tyson De La Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. I'm going to show you exactly why Florida's model works and why blue states are collapsing under their own failed policies. Let me break down what Florida has accomplished while other states were busy creating sanctuary cities. Operation Tidal Wave, a joint effort between ICE and Florida law, started in 2005. The results: more immigration enforcement than any other state in the nation.
When we set out to do something, we're going to make sure that we're going to be able to deliver results on that.
This is what real leadership looks like. When it's elegies, no hesitation about sharing facts because they might offend someone. Now, here's the part that destroys the left's narrative. They're not random sweeps targeting innocent people. 63% had prior criminal records. We're talking about violent offenses, ex-crimes, those who've actually committed crimes and have already victimized American communities.
People preying upon and abusing little kids that are illegal immigrants that have no business being here.
Preying on children, violent crimes, ex-offenders. These are people.
And Democrats are protecting these
Florida is
motherfuckers.
removing. And the protesters want you to believe this is somehow controversial. But here's what makes Florida's approach more effective. They're not just arresting people. They created an infrastructure to process deportations quickly and effectively. While other states are releasing illegal immigrants back into communities, Florida built what they're calling deportation depot.
These people. I used to work for Home Depot.
CBP home application.
I worked for Home
lets
Depot.
You self-deport safely and effectively.
Oh,
Explore
I'm going to
quick
talk to Tyson about
self-deportation
this.
with just a push of a button. So easy, even you can do it. Download the CBP home application and see how El Hombres.
Yeah, I work for Home
3,000
Depot.
people have already been deported from this facility alone.
Many of those arrested are processed through the state's deportation depot at Baker Correctional
Good
Institute.
job. I had a
with
good
3,000
time.
people
It's
being
just
deported
ending
from there.
for a long
Others
time,
are going
really
through Alligator Alcatraz.
But I had a good time when I
Depot
worked.
and Alligator Alcatraz. Florida is not playing
Stopped working
around.
for
They're
them
not
because I got
catching,
injured.
releasing.
I
They're catching
fucked up my
and
knee.
deporting. And it's working. By
And I
creating
couldn't work,
dedicated facilities
like,
with immigration
standing
judges on
like
site,
that.
Florida has dramatically sped up the deportation process. No more releasing people into the
tore my
communities
ACL and
that they'll
meniscus.
never show up for.
We now, at each one of those facilities, the federal government has stationed an immigration judge.
Florida law requires every state and county agency to assist ICE with immigration enforcement.
Immigration judges stationed at the facility expedites removals. This is how you actually enforce immigration law instead of just talking about it. The numbers here absolutely prove it. Beyond the 10,000 detained, Florida estimates nearly 2 million illegal immigrants have self-deported. 2 million people have already self-deported. They're leaving voluntarily because they know Florida will actually enforce the law. Now, here's the most powerful part about Florida's success. The deterrent effect. When you actually enforce law, crazy, I know, people who are here illegally, they start making different choices.
Our best guess is upwards to 1.9 million illegal immigrants have self-deported.
1.9 million. That's not arrests. That's not deportations. That's people who looked at Florida's enforcement and decided that they're going to leave on their own. Some took advantage of state programs. Some took advantage of federal programs. But, they all left. This is what Democrats don't want you to understand. When you enforce law constantly, you don't have to arrest anyone. Most people will comply voluntarily rather than risk deportation. Compare this to sanctuary cities where illegal immigrants know they're going to be protected from federal enforcement. Why would anybody self-deport when the local government is actively shielding them from ICE? Florida's approach creates an opposite incentive structure. If you're here illegally, Florida will find you, they will detain you, and you will get deported.
they don't play.
So you leave before that happens. This is how you solve an immigration crisis without massive resources. Make enforcement credible, and people will make rational decisions. Now let's talk about the protesters in Boca Raton who are demanding ICE leave Florida because apparently protecting children from sex offenders is controversial now.
Hundreds of protesters lining the streets of Glades Road in Boca Raton.
We want justice.
Oh, of course, the white people, look, white girl.
The protest called ICE for good.
ICE out for good. These people want to eliminate the agency
Didn't make
responsible
no
for removing
sense.
violent criminals and sex offenders from American communities. Let that sink in.
Who made
Other
the
groups from
signs?
across Palm Beach County and Broward are demanding that ICE be held accountable.
We want justice. We want peace. You want peace? How about the justice for the victims
about go
of
to
crimes
work?
committed by people who should
Maybe
either
go
be
work
in
at
the
Home
country?
Depot.
How about the peace
And
for
you'll see how it
communities
is
who don't
to
have
deal
to
with these
worry about
fucking
violent
people
criminals who've already been
outside,
deported multiple times?
like
But
camping,
listen
pretty
to their
much.
reasoning.
Looking
There
for
are no
work,
kings in this country.
illegally
We have a
working.
constitution.
We have to kick them
We
out
have a
of our
Congress.
parking lot
Yes, we have a
sometimes.
president. But
Because
they
they
all
kept
have to
putting me on
follow the
and harassing our
Constitution and the
customers.
law.
They
In the
all
parking lot,
have
we
to
have to put
follow the
our foot down.
Constitution and law. You're absolutely right.
I work for Home
And
Depot. Tyson should
immigration
have
law
interviewed
says
me.
people who enter the country illegally should be deported.
Like, Tyson, you
ICE
want me
is
to show
following the law. You are the ones
I
demanding
proof that
they
I work for
stop.
Home
The
Depot?
cognitive dissonance here is
I got my
stunning. They're
certificate.
protesting law enforcement for enforcing law while claiming to
I
care
have my
about
certificates.
constitutional principles. Now here's where it gets interesting. These protests, we know
You gotta-
organic.
you
They're
gotta-
coordinating responses to the Minneapolis and Portland shooting designed to create
I'll copy
national
the end.
narratives against ICE enforcement.
This all comes after the recent shootings in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Portland, Oregon.
A U.S. citizen was killed the other day, Renee Good, and we are here with anger in our hearts at what has happened and what is happening in our country.
They're using the tired, dusty old playbook, using isolated incidences where suspects tried to harm federal agents to argue against all immigration empowerment. It's like saying we should abolish police departments because officers involved shootings exist.
And families are scared to leave their homes.
Families are being torn apart, but most good, moral people are angry and furious at what's going on in this country, and we will not stand for it.
Families are scared to leave their homes. If you're here legally, you have nothing.
So why are you in the
worry about.
sidewalk?
If you're here
You're
illegally,
protesting
you
if you're
should
afraid
be
to leave your
concerned.
house.
You should maybe report. But notice
Like,
what they're
he's
really
out
saying.
in the
They
middle of
want
a
illegal
protest,
immigrants
but they're
to feel
scared to get out of their
safe from
home.
deportation. They want people who broke our immigration law
Make no
to
fucking
live
sense.
without fear of enforcement. My friends, this is not compassion. This is enabling lawbreakers. Meanwhile, Florida families can actually feel safe because violent
I'll have
criminals and
Tyson
sex
interview
offenders
me
are being removed from
Thursday.
their communities. But these protesters think that that's a problem. Let me show you the stark contrast between Florida's approach and what's happening in sanctuary states. Florida cooperates with federal immigration enforcement. Result: 10,000 criminals detained. 1.9 million self-deported. Communities safer. Sanctuary states obstruct federal enforcement. Results: gang members protected, violent criminals released. Communities less safe. And then they act shocked when ICE has to conduct dangerous field operations.
If anyone commits a crime here in our state, yes, they should be arrested. Period.
Yeah.
But again, he's going after folks and demonizing people for political theater.
Even critics admit criminals should be arrested. Then it's meant political theater. You can't have it both ways. Either
I mean,
you
it's not
support
both
removing
ways, yeah.
violent criminals or you don't. Florida's model proves that when
Yeah.
state and federal authorities work together, immigration
Criminals, and
enforcement
if there's any
becomes more
collateral, then
effective and
you
safer
gotta go.
for everybody that's involved. When enforcement becomes more dangerous and less effective, the protesters demanding ICE leave are actually demanding that Florida becomes less safe. They're demanding that violent criminals and sex offenders be allowed to stay in American communities.
And the
they're
media
doing it
just
while
suckers
claiming to
into it, you
care
know what I mean?
About, get this, justice
See how the
and
media
peace. America,
goes to
Florida
the
just
people?
showed every state in the nation how to handle
I'm
illegal
from South
immigration.
Florida. I was born in
10,000
Miami.
detained,
So I know these
1.9 million
agencies.
self-deported. 63% of those arrests had criminal records. This is what success looks like. While Portland police chiefs cry about having to tell the truth and Minneapolis burns over white liberals who tried to murder a federal agent, Florida Florida is quietly protecting its citizens. They are demanding that Florida abandon the policies that made it actually safer. They're demanding protection for people who committed crimes against American communities, and they're doing it while claiming to care about constitutional principles. Florida's model works because it's based on a simple
menopause people.
Principle: enforce law constantly, and most people will comply voluntarily. Create consequences for illegal immigration, and you don't need massive resources to solve the problem. Sanctuary states create the opposite incentive structure: protect lawbreakers, obstruct law enforcement, then act shocked when those policies lead to dangerous situations. Then blame ICE for doing the job that local authorities refuse to do. One works, one fails, and the protesters are demanding the approach that fails. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you, Tyson, for another great upload that just kind of a little pissed me off. You know, it gets me a little mad because it's like, what we elected Trump to presidency, right? He had an agenda, he ran on and won on that agenda, and now he's executing on that agenda, and yet we have all the Democrats having a cow at the same time. It's like all Karens, I repeat, all Karens, Democrat Karens, to the front of the line. You have been activated. All Karens to the front of the line, please. God help me. Let's go straight to the last video of Tyson De La Cruz. Let's go ahead and set this up. I'm going to try to get Tyson on here. Hopefully Thursday, if he don't have nothing going on, we could get him on here and welcome him onto the show for the 2026. Yeah, it's a crazy year. It's just started. That's just the fun part. We're just like they're going up on the roller coaster and we're still climbing, and it's just going to get wilder because when we come on that dive, it's just going to be so wild. And I hope you guys are ready for it. You know, weird shit is going to happen this year. A lot of weird shit, especially with all the stuff that's going on with the future with the Olympics and the World Cup, and like there's this big eye focus on the United States, and we had the borders open for 4 years, so they had a 4-year head start, and there's a lot of criminals in our country. There's a lot of agents, a lot of secret agents, foreign agents are in this country, and they're mingling with the people. And they're trying to blend in as much as possible. The American government knows who they are and kind of know where they're at, but it's a big operation. This is a big country, and they're all over. They're everywhere. They're just not like in one state, in one city, and like one house. No, they're spread out throughout the whole country. And they're not only here in the United States, they're also in Canada. So it's like this is just a weird fucking time in life that I'm in, and I'm just witnessing everything happening. You know, I'm a spectator looking from the outside in, and you know, enjoy the show. Get some fucking popcorn, bitch, and enjoy. So wild. But let's go ahead and watch the last episode here of the night, and that's dedicated to Tyson De La Cruz. Here we go.
Families, especially white families, but some POC families who are homeowners as well, are going to have a different relationship to property than the one that we currently have.
America, the woman you just heard, that is C. Weaver. And she was just appointed by New York City's new socialist mayor to run the Office to Protect Tenants. She literally called homeownership a weapon of white supremacy and posted C's private property on her social media. But here's the kicker. Her own mother owns a $1.6 million home in a gentrified neighborhood. This isn't just hypocrisy, folks. This is full-blown communist ideology taking over America's largest city, and they're not even hiding it anymore.
For too long, Bad landlords have been allowed to mistreat their tenants with impunity. That ends today.
Wow.
What is up, guys? Tyson Dela Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. This story is a perfect example of how the radical left wants to destroy the American dream of homeownership while protecting their own wealth and property. And I'm going to show you exactly how deep this communist rabbit hole goes. Let me break down exactly who Mayor Zoran Mamdani just put in charge of the housing policy for 8.2
I live next to
million
that
New
fucking New
Yorkers.
York.
Her name is C. Weaver, and she isn't some moderate Democrat trying to help renters. She is a card-carrying member of the Democratic Socialists of America with a social media history that reads like a communist manifesto. Here are her exact quotes from deleted Twitter posts. On June 2018, seize private property, exclamation point. August 2019, private property, including any kind of especially home ownership, is a weapon of white supremacy. December 2017, elect more communists. May 2020, the police are just people the state sanctions to murder with immunity. Now, I want you to understand something. This isn't some college kid posting edgy content to get random attention from people. This is a grown woman who just got handed enormous power over housing policy in the largest city in America.
Wow.
She was a key advisor to Mamdani's campaign, and he knew exactly what he was getting.
Because to be fair to Zohar Mamdani, he ran as this guy. I would refer to him as the commie candidate, and I'd have people say, no, communism's over. He's not running as a communist. He literally was running as a communist.
Carol nails it right here. Mamdani didn't hide who he was. He ran as a communist, and New York voters either didn't care or actually wanted this for some crazy odd reason. But here's what they're about to find out. Communist housing policy have failed everywhere, every single where that they have tried. Every single time. Now, here it gets absolutely ridiculous. While C. Weaver is out here calling homeownership white supremacy and demanding the government seize private property, guess what her own family owns? Oh, let you guess. A $1.6 million home. Her mother was a professor at Vanderbilt University and owns this multi-million-dollar property in Tennessee. In, coincidentally enough, a neighborhood Weaver herself complained was being gentrified. So let me get this straight. When your family owns property, that is completely fine. When working class Americans saved for decades to buy a house and build generational wealth, that's white supremacy. This, my friends, is classic rule for thee and not for me mentality that defines every single socialist that ever lived.
Communism has failed every single time it's been tried. It has never worked. And so the idea that the Mamdani administration is going to be first to make it successful is ridiculous. And of course, it's always somebody as white as this woman telling us that housing is a white supremacy goal.
She's talking about how families need to have a different relationship to property. Translation, your home that you worked overtime to afford, that you saved for, that you're building equity in, that's not really yours anymore. It's a collective good that should be shared with people who haven't done anything to actually earn it. This, my friends, is straight out of the communist playbook. They always exempt themselves from their own policies. The elites get to keep their $1 million homes while telling you that your 3-bedroom ranch in the suburbs is somehow oppressing people. Mamdani isn't seeing implementing his communist vision. During his inaugural address, he literally quoted communist leaders and talked about collectivism versus individualism. His first major policy proposal, freeze rent on 1 million rent-regulated apartments.
For tenants who have felt forgotten until now.
This is like really rare for somebody, a mayor, to come to the tenants to hear what we have to say.
Look at that celebration. Those tenants think Mamdani, Zohar Mamdani, is going to save them. But here's what's really going to happen. When you freeze rents and attack property owners, you don't create more housing. You actually crazily enough, destroy it. The property owners will stop maintaining buildings and eventually sell it and get out of the market entirely. Mamdani also signed an executive order creating rental ripoff hearings across all 5 boroughs. Sounds good, right? Wrong. This gives the city unprecedented power to interfere with private contracts between landlords and tenant protection.
In to represent the interests of the city and the interests of the tenants and say once and for all who this government will be fighting for.
Here's what he's really saying. If your landlord does not responsibly steward your home, city government will step in. That's government seizure of private property with a little extra steps. They're creating a framework where the city can take over buildings whenever they decide the landlord isn't meeting their particular standards. And who decides what those standards are? The same government that runs New York City Housing Authority, some of the most dangerous, poorly maintained housing in America. Let's talk about what happens when government runs housing. New York City has a massive public housing system, the New York City Housing Authority, and it is an absolute disaster.
Letting our viewers in on a little, some facts about the conditions of what public housing in New York City is. The quality of that is really like, and that's what she's calling for.
Yeah.
It's often called NYCHA. The conditions are abysmal. The mismanagement is rampant. Allegations of fraud aplenty. It is not the type of place that anyone would want to live.
That's what government housing looks like in reality. And C. Weaver and Zohran Mamdani want to expand this model across the entire city. You know why? Because it's not actually about helping tenants. It is about one word: control. When the government controls housing, they control where you live, how you live, and ultimately how you vote. It is about creating a dependent class of people who rely on the government for basic needs.
I think once the reality hits them, they're going to see what it actually is like. The projects, you know, as we refer to them in New York, the public housing, were somewhere no one wanted to be there. No one wanted to live there. The conditions were terrible. And that's what government housing is all about. That's what happens when the government runs housing.
Private property is the foundation of freedom in America. When you own your own home, you have independence, you have security, you can build wealth and pass it on to your children. That's why communists hate it. They can't control people who own property and build wealth. So what's going to happen to New York City under this communist leadership? Let me tell you exactly what's coming, because we've seen this pattern in every city where socialists take power. First, property owners are going to leave when you make it impossible to operate rental properties, quote unquote, profitable, when you freeze rents while property taxes and maintenance costs keep rising, when you threaten to seize buildings, property owners choose better jurisdictions. They will sell their buildings to invest in places like Florida, Nevada, Texas, Tennessee, anywhere but New York. Secondly, housing quality is going to decline more than it already does. When landlords can't raise rents to cover maintenance costs, buildings obviously get deteriorated. We're already seeing this in rent-controlled buildings.
Yeah, but that's all throughout New York. That's nothing new.
Construction is going to stop. Why would any developer in his right mind build new housing in a city? Government can freeze your rents and threaten to seize your property.
Just because you're white doesn't mean you have fewer rights in this country. We all have equal rights in our country, and we will not stand for New York City violating any federal law whatsoever. We will swoop right in and do what's necessary to protect all citizens and taxpayers and residents of New York who are there legally.
The Department of Justice is already putting New York City on notice. They're watching for violations of federal law because here's what Mamdani and Weaver don't understand, or maybe they do understand it and just don't care. The Constitution protects private rights. You can't just seize private property because you don't like capitalism.
Notice how they never talk about the New York City Housing Authority being poorly maintained. The worst slums in the city are run by the government. You should never hear them talk about that because they don't actually care about improving anything at all.
Exactly.
They're interested in developing a pretense for seizing private property.
They're interested in creating a pretense for seizing private property. It's about power, not about
They want to
This
steal the property
communist
from the
takeover
owners.
isn't limited to New York City. Seattle just elected Katie Wilson, another socialist mayor, pushing the same anti-property ownership agenda. San Francisco, Los Angeles, Portland, every major city run by Democrats is implementing the same version of these policies. And here's what's really concerning. Many Democrats don't even realize they're supporting communist policies. They think rent control sounds compassionate. They think attacking landlords sounds like helping tenants. But these policies have been tried for decades, and they always produce the same results: housing shortages, declining quality, and economic stagnation. The evidence is everywhere. Property owners are fleeing to red states. Real estate investors are avoiding blue cities. I know I am. Small landlords are selling their properties rather than deal with hostile regulations. And housing shortages are getting worse despite billions and billions of dollars in government spending.
Mayor Mamdani left the spotlight at City Hall and made a beeline to visit someone's dilapidated bathroom in Brooklyn.
For too long, bad landlords have been allowed to mistreat their tenants with impunity. That ends today.
Look at the theater. Mamdani goes to visit one of the tenants' bathrooms with mold problems and declares war on all landlords. But he's not going to fix the tenant's bathroom. He's going to create a regulatory environment that makes it even harder for landlords to maintain their properties. America, we're watching the complete destruction of property rights play out in real time in New York City. When government officials openly call for seizing private property and declaring home ownership white supremacy, we're not dealing with policy differences. We're dealing with communist ideology that have failed everywhere it's been tried. The pattern here is crystal clear. Socialist politicians create housing crises through bad policies, then use those crises to justify even more government control. They attack private property owners while living in multi-million-dollar homes. They promise to help tenants while creating conditions that destroy housing quality and availability.
Former New York City Mayor Eric Adams slammed waiver posting. Homeownership is how immigrants, Black, brown, and working class New Yorkers built stability and generational wealth despite every obstacle. You have to be completely out of your mind to call that white supremacy.
Even Eric Adams, who's no conservative, recognizes how insane this is. Calling that white supremacy is completely detached from reality. The Constitution protects private property rights, but those protections only matter if we elect leaders who will defend them. New York voters chose communism. Now they're going to learn what that actually means. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you, Tyson, for a great upload again. Kind of got me a little pissed off there because this mayor is like not too far from where I live, and I wouldn't want his people coming over here. I don't want that energy coming over this way. It's just, listen, it's an experiment. Trump's just trying to see what the hell this guy is going to do. I don't understand how they let this guy take over without first checking the machines and making sure the right people voted, and then hopefully they didn't vote multiple times. Because there was a lot of people that voted in this midterms and that election over in New York City, but it just seems really weird where they had investigations and they had fraud going on. They had election fraud going on where they were told that they didn't need an ID. They could just walk up and just vote and just keep going about your life and have a good life. And then they end up going to another poll and vote in another place. So they voted in multiple places and they didn't even need their ID. They just walked in and voted. So how legit that is, that they need to investigate. So that's something that I cannot do. The government needs to do that. And the sooner the better, because we need to secure our elections is very important for our democracy. And with that said, I'm done with the show. It was a great show. I truly appreciate those who came by and watched. And I know we're really trapped in the Twilight Zone, and it feels like that. The train of truth, right on time. I'm telling you. I love the train of truth. All right. That's my cue to go. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Have a good morning, good afternoon, and a good night. And I'll catch you on the flip side. And I'll be back on here tomorrow, same time, same place. So I was a little bit late today, 15 minutes, but it was just because I had some technical things to take care of here. Other than that, have a good one. See y'all tomorrow. Peace.